Vince Lombardi, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're already late.
Oh God.
Okay. So her script is she knocks on the door, bang, bang, whatever. She takes a step back. Those of you who have door knocked with me know that already because it's less intimidating. She takes a step back. Hi, I'm Diana Kokoska, and we had an appointment at 1 o'clock, and it's 1 o'clock. Just to remind them that she's on time because it's actually a rare occurrence that realtors are on time.
Oh God.
In Southern California, it's even rarer, right? So remember that. You'll always remember that. We had an appointment at 1 o'clock, wait till the watch, and it's 1 o'clock as a reminder. Because she says she's gotten appointments, or gotten listings just by being on time. I am so grateful that you're all here on Friday afternoon at that. And I might be a little bit of a proud mama right now that, 80% of the classroom are from my coaching team. So thank you.
Mama Bear.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate that. Gaga, I have the hookup for you. The #1 agent in Florida. Remember we were talking about this practicing?
Yes.
When she gets back from Gary Keller's top 100 mastermind, okay, she's that big of an agent. You were going to have a one-on-one with her for 15 minutes about practicing. So Gaga came to me yesterday. It's okay.
Yes.
To share. She came to me yesterday. We were talking on the phone, and she was talking that she's not following up on her. She's very good at getting leads. She's very good at connecting with people in person, and she's lagging on the follow-up because English is her second language, and she has the words and the vocabulary, and yet sometimes it gets a little jumbled, and she doesn't feel as convincing and confident. Because even when she called me, I said, "You don't sound very confident today." I could hear it in her voice. And she said, "I'm not." So I said, "This is what I know about my friend, who's the #1 agent in Florida, because I've roomed with her when she's been the keynote speaker." I said, "She practiced it. She does A, because she's worried about pronunciation. German's her first language. So she practices and practices and practices. And this actually resonated with Gaga because she learned to dance recently, and she knows, like dancing or musical instruments or any real estate, we have to do our drills to get good at it.
Yes.
Okay? Now, who remembers what the 5 jobs of a real estate agent are? Who remembers? This is really important. I'm going to drill it.
Or you want us to use it?
I want you to tell me
Lead
what.
generation.
Lead gen. Who said that?
I can see.
Steve. Lead gen. What's the next one?
Follow up.
Lead follow up.
Appointments.
3. Go on appointments. 4.
Negotiate.
That's today's lesson. Yes, negotiate. And 5.
Closing.
Practice scripts.
Practice and role play. That's your practice and role play.
Hey, she was taught the other class. The answers are already there.
I did. You're right. I'm here. Practice and role play. That's your drills. Okay. You don't do this. If you don't do this, you are practicing on your clients. Okay. Just like the last class I taught was my first time teaching it. And I may not have been as prepared as I would like to be, so a little bit of that was practice on you. The next time I teach it, I would get better at it. This is my class, so this one I'll refer back at the notes. This is my blood because I practiced this. Okay, and today is negotiating the deal. Of all the Ignite sessions that I took, this was the most critical one for my career. This is my differentiator, and I'm really grateful that I'm able to be able to do this. So anyway, I'm going to bring you back to this. I heard rumor that some of the agents teaching did not hold you accountable. So I'm going to. Kevin, how many contacts did you have over today's Friday, the last 4 days or 5 days?
Like 55.
Okay, so you're there. That's he's on target. Next time I ask you that, I want you to know.
Yeah.
Okay? I want you to know. Because this is our bread and butter. Andrea, how many contacts did you have?
New ones.
Contacts, conversations. Were you at my first class?
Yes.
Okay. Conversations with people other than mom, unless you were talking about the house.
Okay. So this week,
This week, since Monday.
get back to me because I have to think about it.
Okay. You bet.
5.
5. Okay, we're not on target. Okay, so I'm going to teach you, this is a coaching model that I'm still learning. It's called Grow. Okay? So G is for goal. Our goal in Ignite was 10 a day, so 50 in the work week. Okay? The goal. And that, we just came up with your reality was 5. Okay? No blame, nothing. We examine reality to see where we're at. So what's the gap here? It's 45. So but the next question would be, what are the obstacles getting in the way? I'm going to be vulnerable with you. I'm going through this because I couldn't tell you today how many people I've talked to this week. I have had nothing but obstacles. Actually, since I started coaching, I'm not doing well on my lead generation, and it's going to show up in my business, and I know that. For me, my lead generation cycle is 6 weeks. Traditionally, it's considered 90 days, but for me, it shows up in my business in about 6 weeks. I'll close another deal on Monday, and guess what? I have nothing else in escrow. It's showing up in 6 weeks. When did I start coaching most of you? About 8 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it's showing up in my business. So we look at what were the obstacles. You know, in January, I got COVID. This week, I went on a trip. I started coaching. The people in growth, you know, you have 3 escrows you've been managing. The kids got sick. You got a second job. There were so many good classes at Ignite, right? Ignite was kind of an obstacle, right?
Yes.
Okay. So many good classes. But are any of these things on this list? Are any of them on this list? No, they're not. That's the trick. That's your 20%. If we talk back to the Pareto principle, 20% of our efforts give us 80% of the results. Okay? Just like 20% of the agents will do 80% of the business. And guess what? In this economy, it's probably 2% of us are going to do 98% of the business. And I want you to be part of that 2%. That's the only reason I call these guys out. I won't put the rest of you through the pain of knowing what that is. Okay, so, but this is the important part. There's no judgment in this. Okay, your goal was 50, you did 5. What was the obstacle? What got in the way? And now, what is the way forward? Okay, what's the way forward? Guess what? I talked to my accountability partner this morning. You probably know her, Amy Bloom. I think she taught this last week or 2. She's
I think she's teaching on Monday.
Okay, Amy is doing the final class, okay? Top agent, amazing person, in the business a long time. She's my accountability partner, and she and I both just on trips. Yes?
15.
15, okay, there we have it. So our gap is 35,
Okay.
okay?
I'm below the mark.
But that's okay, that's your gap. You look at your gap, say, okay, well, what got in the way? And now what's my way forward? We're not going to focus on the problem, we're going to focus on the solution. So when I told her today, when she called me, I was on my way to physical therapy at 8 a.m. I still hadn't had a shower, still wasn't prepared for this class, and I didn't realize it, but I didn't have it on my calendar. I had a big opportunity for a television show, and I had a Zoom about that I didn't even realize was on my calendar. And she said, she knows I lead generate 3 hours a day, but she said, let's just get you back. When are you going to put that hour? That was my promise to her, was I was going to do an hour. Let's just
Of lead generation or the TV show?
Lead generation, not the TV show.
Okay.
Lead generation. And I was like, crap, I'm not even showered. I don't know when I'm going to do this. I overcommitted, under budgeted. And then I know the answer, because inside me's the answer. I said, I'm doing too much. I need to refamiliarize myself with the word no. And I had accepted, Sarah had asked me to do something at 11:30 today, and I had said yes yesterday without thinking. And I said, I need to call Sarah and tell her I can't make it. She just said, that's right, we need to call Sarah and tell her you can't make it. So no is a very powerful word. Every time you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else. So when you're saying yes to my sister just called. She saw her ex-boyfriend and her heart hurts and she had surgery and this and that, she's really blue. However, I had taken her call anywhere but in the car on the way over, I was then saying yes to her and no to this, right? Okay. One of my coaching clients called, and I just texted her and I said, I finished up at 4:30. I had another guy text me and say, do you have time for a call? If I say yes to all of them, I'm saying no to something else. And ultimately, I'm saying no to my big why. Those of you who were here in the first class, my big whys have to do with my own financial independence, my ability to travel with the people I care about and love, and my ability to inspire others. And if I'm not putting the right amount of food on my table and nourishing those things, I can't do any of those big whys. So when things get out, I encourage you to at least weekly look at this and do your own growth analysis. Everybody in this room has coaches. We all know this model. Don't try to hide it from them. Come clean, come honest, and get right over here. Don't self-flagellate. I do a lot of that. I'm Capricorn. We do a lot of self-flagellation. Get over here to the W. What's my way to moving forward? Okay? What are we going to do differently? Yes, ma'am.
Time management.
Can we manage time, Andrea?
Saying no to things, yes.
We can say no to things. We can't manage time. It just takes without us. It just keeps on going.
Well, I
Or
mean,
you can block time.
Right.
that's what I mean, like structuring your
what?
time.
My calendar's beautifully blocked. Mine's beautifully blocked. Hey, this night session is in there 3 times, actually. I didn't follow my calendar. It's blocked. I'm not following. There are rules to time blocking, so we'll go back to that. There's rules to time blocking. So I use this. I think I taught you guys this very briefly. This stuff right here. This is supposed to be green. It's going to be green. These are money-making activities. Okay? So these things in my calendar are color-coded green. And the bulk of my calendar should be green. That's my 20%. This, for me, is, for you, you might be able to justify being green, but the truth is, I color this, let's see, there it is. Nope. I color it blue, okay? I'll use brown. This is educational, this is practice, so team meeting, I would color blue, doing this would be blue. Coaching, I have purple, that's a totally different category. A really important one, I think I saw Paul, everybody raved about Paul's session yesterday, so I actually watched it last night. I watched about half of it. He talked about time blocking your vacations.
Yes.
Okay? So I time block my personal stuff in pink, and I put it in there in pink, so that's personal. Negotiate, I don't even know what color I would have that one.
Red?
It could be green. Now, red I would probably reserve for stuff I shouldn't be doing, time wasters. Okay.
Would it go to blue too? It's kind of like
It could go into blue. It does make me money. It probably is going to go into green. Actually, this makes me a ton of money.
Okay.
Okay, so it probably goes into green. The one I want you to caution yourselves about, and those people who are doing mega agents in here, not just cappers, because I know this is cappers in training, is there's this one that's going to be orange, and it's the stuff you could delegate. And everybody, poor God, I'm going to pick on you. Everybody wants to hire the assistant. Okay, she wants to hire the assistant. I hired the assistant. I hired my second assistant. I fired my assistant. I used my assistants, and what I bought with my assistants was time. Guess what? My business didn't grow. Why did my business grow when I hired these amazing assistants? And
You were too busy delegating tasks.
You didn't use your time that you had left for the things that you should have.
Right. I did not use that time for this.
Right.
I used it for personal. I lost 120 pounds.
That's good.
It is great. It is great. I went to Fiji. I went to the Maldives. I went to Prague. I went to, God knows, I've been everywhere. I haven't been everywhere.
And
But-
you deserve it.
And I deserve it. Guess what? You gotta earn money to do that.
That's-
And now I'm paying an assistant 40, 50 grand a year, right? Assistants are not cheap. That's probably more for a good one, probably 80 or 90.
That's just not a good one.
You can pay 80 or 90 and they might not be good too. The money is not a linear relationship, okay? But I want you to keep track of those things that you can delegate, because I just want you to start thinking that way. Could I delegate this? Who could I delegate it to? So leverage, and that's leverage. Leverage is not just hiring an assistant. I still have lots of leverage. I got groceries while I was on that TV show Zoom call today. They got delivered to the front door, right? It took me 5 minutes to order my groceries. Now they're at my front door. That's leverage. Sending your laundry out is leverage. Having a housekeeper is leverage. A nanny is leverage. While you lead generate for 2 hours, that's leverage. What else can
Pet
you?
sitter.
A pet sitter, a dog walker, a driver. I know people in some cities and things, a driver. Or like taking the train to something, taking an Uber to something. There are other ways to leverage that are not commitment to a full-time employee, a VA. You can ask your vendors, what can you be doing for me? What can you have them doing that you're doing? You can start to leverage some of those tasks too. They're partners. So like my lender partner, we had a business meeting last Friday, and part of the talk was, my assistant was really good at planning events. So I would do 4 events a year with my clients. I also had this client loyalty program. And within a year of letting her go, I just couldn't handle it anymore. But planning events is not my thing. Well, they said, well, we can plan those. We have somebody that gets paid on staff for the company to do that. You just need to tell us what you want to do, who's going to be invited, and share those documents with us, what you want it to look like. I still have to pay my share, but they can do the planning. So that's your thing. So I want to bring you back to this accountability. Ignite is over on Monday. This doesn't change ever. In fact, I would contend that anybody who owns their own business, the 5 jobs are the same. We might call them a little bit different. Okay? But this never ever changes. And I promise you, you all should know this by now. If you do this, you are going to be a millionaire real estate agent. If you do the daily 10-4, 5 days a week, 30 weeks a year, you guys are all going to be up on stage next year collecting your awards, and you're going to be going whatever trip of whatever you want, or sending your kids to college, or buying a house, or getting out of debt, whatever it is. It's really simple. It's not easy. I know when you stepped in this room at the beginning of the month, you were committed to this, right? And yet, how many of you feel like you really did the 10-4? Anyone?
Yes,
that's why
it is really on.
But you're selling now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is
One of the
why.
biggest things that I've noticed with this, because I wasn't doing it before, was the note cards.
Well, they're so powerful.
The first set I sent out, I've already got those people calling me or texting me,
Me too.
thanking me for it.
You sent me a card. She's not in the room. She actually wrote me a note, one of the gals, and I didn't discover it until yesterday because I didn't unpack my bag. But if you send me a card, I actually saved them there for me to make sure I call you about the card, or I take a picture and I post it on social media if there was a gift or whatever it is. Yeah, they're pretty powerful.
Yeah, that's so far been the most powerful thing that I've taken from this, because it's like everybody says, we don't get hard mail anymore unless it's a bill.
Oh, man,
Or solicitor, you know?
Right?
I just did it for Mother's Day. I don't know what else should I say to people.
And Kevin, you just asked the phone, you just simply ask them for their address.
If I don't have their address, I just say,
You can
hey,
always
what's your address? I want to send you something.
All right, I want to
It's-
send you something. You text me that, I give you my address. I'd like
You know, it's either a note card, some of them, not everybody, but some of them I'll throw a $5 Starbucks card in and just be like, hey, was thinking about you, have a cup of coffee and remember the good times.
It doesn't have to be a thank you. It can just be I was thinking about you. And the Sharpie is your friend. Because you don't have to fill out everything. The Sharpie is your friend. Big print. Yes,
And
ma'am.
you can be creative with it. I have a rubber stamp collection. And so I like to stamp the back and just personalize it.
And that fills your bucket of the creativity, because this job is not always creative.
No.
So it's also important to fill your bucket and not, I'm never gonna get to that, okay? I have creative things, but just won't get it done that way. And so it's beautiful that you have that. I do receive a lot of beautiful things from people. And I can tell you the people who send me the cards and such. It doesn't have to be gifts, it doesn't have to be expensive. Those of you who were here, I never mentioned it, but what I gave you note cards that were pre-stamped, forever stamped. All you have to do is say, hey, thank you. That's it. And I wouldn't even, like, for me, if they know who I am, I'd sign an M and a dash. Okay? I've taken to doing that when I'm in a neighborhood now where I've sold a house. I don't go to Lakeside all the time, but I was in Lakeside and I have a client that I know he's waiting for the 2-year time to be up. And I'm like, hey, I was in Lakeside this week, was thinking of you. And it took him 2 days, but he got back to me, hey, so good to hear. What were you doing out here? Anything good? You know, that kind of thing.
Nice.
Okay.
Can I share something real quick? This is from follow-ups that I've done this week from a open house done over the weekend for Carl and Kieran. It was another agent from somewhere else, but he was casually looking. He wasn't, he's a commercial agent. He doesn't really do a lot on the residential side. So I got his address and ran a CMA for him because that's, he was kind of curious, and I guess on the commercial side he didn't really do that.
Right.
But, I got an email from him earlier this morning that said, thanks for getting back to me here. Sadly, very few realtors who we sign in with actually ever follow up. Thanks for doing your job.
Yep.
Nice.
And if and when you go to do something with him in the future, he will remember it.
Right.
And that will make a difference.
So there you go. Don't be afraid to follow up.
Even with
I was guilty at first too. A lot of the ways I've been able to get my 10 new contacts in is I never threw my sign-in sheets away, but I never entered them in my command.
Me too. Me too.
That's why I got done with Command 100 a week early, or 2 weeks early, whatever it was.
You had all your
And I had
contacts.
all that, and then we were doing this Ignite Challenge too. Well, not challenge.
So let's role play that, Kevin. You're gonna call me because you haven't followed up with me. How long have you been in the business?
A year.
Okay. So we've only been doing open houses 6 months. So let's just say 6 months ago, I signed into your open house. You never followed up with me. You're gonna put me in your database. Call me. Let's role play it.
Melinda, sorry.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Joe.
Hey,
Hey,
Melinda,
Joe.
this is Kevin with Keller Williams. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Very well. I'm not sure if you remember me or not, but we met at the open house a couple of months ago. Curious how your home search is doing right now.
Oh yeah, man, it's rough out there. I haven't bought anything. These interest rates keep going up. Which open house was that?
123 Banana Street. I was the goofy looking guy with the cowboy.
There you go. Him, he's got a signature. I would always mention my signature.
Yeah.
Okay, definitely. Yeah. Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that was a funky house. What's happening? You think we're headed for a crash?
Well, unfortunately, we don't have a magic crystal ball or anything, but what's happening now, or what I'm seeing, is a bit more serious buyers and sellers. Is this something that you're interested in pursuing?
Well, yeah, I'm still paying rent. I want one out of this. I'm just not sure if I can do it.
Great. Well, I'll be in your area either tomorrow at 3 or next following day at 5. Are you available either time?
After 5, but can we do it by Zoom?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Okay, just more efficient.
Yeah.
So he went in and he closed, okay? And he explained that signature right there, explained it, no big deal, not to be embarrassed about. I'll follow up on a 3-year-old lead and say, hey, you were looking at an open house that was at a while back. What's going on with your real estate search for 2022? Don't be embarrassed by it. You are thinking about them a lot more than they're thinking about you.
Right.
They don't remember. They don't care. You called them. They answered. And if I say, Kevin, I'm busy. Sorry. Bye. You gonna cry about it? What are you gonna do?
Luke's call you back next week.
Next week. He's gonna make a task in command If he doesn't already have me on a smart plan that tells him, but since he had a combo with me, put a task in command that says, call. And it'll tell you, ask you what you want to call about. And it's right there, do it, check it off, okay? That's one of the critical things I've learned with command, is putting that next task in really helps me. Because otherwise, they get lost again for 6 months.
Same way, called a lady from one of the open houses. She didn't answer, so I just sent a quick follow-up text.
Yeah.
The voicemail, I sent a quick follow-up text with my digital card. It's got to happen. And she was like, "Oh yeah, I remember you. We actually bought that house."
Right?
So now I've got her address as well as her email and phone number.
Right, does he give up and say, oh man, she'll never use me? That's a story we tell ourselves.
Right.
So now we call those actually orphan buyers. He's got her address. Now he can send her a card, a congratulations card.
Sorry.
Congratulations, they get bought on the thing. That follow-up is gonna get you paid. And that needs to be time blocked on your calendar, which is the reason I took this time to spend this. I feel like this is kind of a capstone on this, that I want to really drill this home. So most of us do better at the lead gen than at the follow-up, myself included. There's times that I do, yes ma'am, yourself, right? Lead gen, you want to work with her.
My obstacle and my way forward, as I said, I'm gonna stop everything, I'm gonna work on my thing that I have.
Right.
And
Yesterday, we found your way forward.
yeah,
We found your way forward. And then, we'll come back to this, okay? I was in a cruise, you guys. I was doing 40 contacts a day, and then suddenly, I don't know, I'm doing 10, 9, whatever. It doesn't feed my business enough. I have to come back to it. What's the obstacle? I stopped saying no. Okay, I started saying yes to so many things because they're fun, you know? So, what we're going to do is we are going to spend the time and do some lead gen right now. What I want you to do first, this is something I took away from Paul's class, is open up to Instagram again. And if you don't have IG, open up to Facebook. I want you, ideally, I would like you to do a live video. Look at the panic. Wingsman's face is like, it's not happening.
I've never done one before.
Okay?
I
This. I am so excited to be in this class today. We are working on our negotiation skills. Keller Williams is the place to be when you want to learn. Okay? That's it. It's credibility, it's real, it's personal. And if you can't do that live video, I'm going to go live. Okay? If you can't do that live video, then do a post. Take a selfie or just show the screen, show me, tag me. You're using my credibility. Because when you tag me, it gets in front of your people. When I tag you, it adds my credibility too. I'm not going to take your comments. You're not going to take my comments. But it adds to your credibility. So we're going to do that. Is that lead gen? No, that's marketing. The lead gen comes when someone comments on your post. That's great. Congratulations. How did it go? Oh, I know her. Is she any good? You know, you guys were, I know you're all talking, is she any good? Should I be with somebody else? You know, that kind of thing. And that's where your lead generation comes from, is that conversation. Oh, wow, I didn't realize you were selling real estate. Okay? So, and then after you post that, get on the phone for 15 minutes. And if you can't do the phone, I give you the out, because I'm that coach that gives you the out. Go ahead and start sending some messages. All right, you can batch those messages. You don't have to get in conversation. You need to send them. I need to send about 100. I'm working this weekend. I need to catch up. But I'm going to go live.
are we gonna speak all at the same time? It's gonna be
Yep, get over it. Keller Williams, every workshop you ever go in, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just, it doesn't have to be perfect. Perfect is the enemy of done. My perfectionist in the room. Perfect is the enemy of done. You can always delete it later.
I don't know, I don't want to admit it, but it's just
Okay.
So you're doing it on a story?
I'm going to do this one as a live on Facebook.
Oh,
You can do live on Instagram too. I get better viewership on lives on Facebook. So I go to live video. Before, so if you click live video on Facebook, if you want to do that, it gives you a moment to add a description. I'm going to say teaching, what is it? It's not the negotiation. Teaching, negotiate the deal. I'm going to check in at this office. I actually have my Google business addresses here, so I'm going to check in at my own company here. And I'm not going to tag you guys now. I'll go back and tag you later. Okay, just for expediency. So, teaching.
So you want us to do it on IG platform?
You can do it on either, yeah, you can do it on either. The only reason I chose IG at first was because Paul used IG yesterday, and I just like to see some consistency. If you do a live video, though, I do know viewership tends to be better on Facebook. IG does well, you schedule it a live, and it's an Instagram live event, so you get better viewership. That's true. Okay.
Are you doing yours now?
And it's 1:32, so at 1:47, we'll go back to class. But I want you guys to do some lead gen in the meantime.
And then tag people too before we start?
That's up to you, whether you want to tag before or after.
Or you can tag after?
You can tag after, so you can go back in. You made a spelling error, you can go back in and fix it.
Okay.
did it.
You did it.
And if somebody pops on, say hi to them. If you're alive.
Right, if they pop on, you say hello. Yes, exactly.
Oh, we're actually, we're really going live right now? Okay, we'll go live. Okay.
Let's see, you've never seen this, your first class?
Sandra Walsh. I am currently at the San Diego California Metro office, and I am taking a class right now. This is the class I'm taking. It's on negotiating, and the series is called Unite. So this is a really great thing because I'm doing this so I can see the best agents I
Right
can.
here on Friday afternoon.
Hey y'all, it's Kevin Drew live in PW City.
Thank you for watching my very first live.
Classes.
It's been a big week for
They're
teaching.
beautiful
So I'm
instructor
teaching my
Melinda.
class today.
Check out her
and it is
classroom.
negotiating.
Kudos to
This
these
is my
guys.
favorite
They
part
got
of the
out
business.
guys and
Now,
guys.
Hey guys,
Got
going
them
live
here.
here.
They are
And our trainer.
some growth.
And I'm so proud of
They
you.
are too legit, and especially with Keller Williams. There's no excuse.
4 days a week for the last 3 weeks. Shoot.
How do you
Hey, come on, it's good to see you on here. Long time no see. I should be back. This is our office, and these guys are all from this.
Andrea.
businesses.
Who's Andrea?
Such an ask all the silly questions. We have to put up with her. We still love her. We love Bridget.
Oh, thanks for saving my life.
And into action.
I got a lot of
And
support here.
today, you can see up here, we just reiterated what everyone's job is here. We talked about goals and the growth model for coaching. After we do a little bit of lead generation, we are going to get into the meat of negotiations. And
I'll call you back.
that I teach in this is different. I don't negotiate just to win. I negotiate for winning. That is part of Keller Williams culture. It is essential that we're looking at winning. Even in a market where the buyers have felt like they're losing, we're looking for winners. So, everyone have a great Friday, a great weekend. Thanks for joining me. Be well.
Oh, cut off. I should do it.
Then you have the option to post now. You can make it go away in 30 days. You can make it forever content. I always choose forever. They no longer allow you to download the video right away. If you want to repurpose it, you need to go on your desktop or your laptop and download it and then repurpose it to your other social media platforms.
So that's in Facebook.
That's Facebook. Okay. That's right.
It cut off, so I don't know. I think I'll make another one.
But I'm Instagram.
That's fine. I'm on that too. And if any of you guys have things that we've done together, I've tried to remember to tag you guys. You're looking good. I tag you, you tag me, repurpose it, put your own spin on it. It helps with you're showing that you're working. People want to work with successful people.
Melinda, if you don't save it, it won't stay on your page, right?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I think it's just on your story now. You know, they keep changing how everything works. I think it does go automatically to your story. But you can always run it and delete it if you don't like it.
Okay, I think I deleted it.
It's kind of cool to go back. So I think I posted my first Facebook Live in 2016. And when it comes back, it's pretty interesting to see the growth. And I actually will like reshare it again and chuckle about it and talk about that growth. All right,
How
so,
do you tag people once you've made it?
here, let me show you. Let's see.
And you can't edit these, can you?
You can edit the words. So,
Right, the whole thing showed up, it just went on my story, it was cut off that when I
story will cut it off because of time. Story is limited, it has a limited time.
Oh.
Okay, so story will do that. It's on your page, so mine shows up on my page.
Yeah.
Okay, and I can edit at these 3 dots
Oh, on your page?
on your page. But you have to go live on your page.
Oh, because I just went live in general.
I'm sure you're going to go to your page, so there you go. There you go.
Okay.
And now you can edit on those 3 buttons, you can edit just about anything.
It's like 3 minutes radius, is that
So
weird?
edit post.
Oh.
Yeah, you're right.
It's like 6 kilometers.
So you can change this.
This is give you reference. Imperial Beach, we have
I'm
an
not sure what else they can do
It's
right
like
now.
3
But I guess I can't, it doesn't appear.
Yeah, the whole area.
Oh, that's a lot. Something about the
I
lines.
did it before I started.
I could do some columns and like that.
And it looks like you can't tag later anymore. Like I said, they keep changing the algorithm.
Okay.
But you can put in the comments, I can put all of your names.
Okay, perfect, all right. Thanks.
Sorry, I see all these questions in there. I'm just trying to.
I'm sorry.
You know, please don't apologize. I love you for the way you are. You're fine. I just wanted to bring that up since you put me on your video.
It was a live video with all my followers.
Why would I encourage you to go live? I mean, I know you're not comfortable with going live, but why would I encourage you? And you may never be, but why do I encourage people to go live?
So you won't,
Let Melinda answer.
I don't know, breaks you out of your shell, I guess.
It breaks you out of your shell, and are you going to work with your clients live?
Yeah.
Are they going to see you, whatever's good and whatever's not great about you?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. So we have this fear that, you know, I'll be imperfect. And you may be somebody who practices more than someone else, and that's okay. And you may practice your conversations. I know you're very careful with your words, which is a fabulous quality. So he's very careful with his words. And so you probably think about what you're going to say when you take them in, how you're going to do that, and that's okay. So if you decide to go live, you would do the same thing because that's authentic to you. Okay? So it's about that authenticity because there's a saying that you can be the best peach or the sweetest peaches in Georgia, and yet there'll still be people who don't like peaches.
Right.
Not everyone's going to like me. Not everyone's going to want to work with me, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And I'm not going to like everyone, and I'm not going to want to work with everyone, and that's okay. It's also my job, as we'll talk about in the negotiation, to keep my emotions between the lines, even when I don't like you, and to be professional.
Oh God, I got 13 views already.
See? What I want you to work for is interactions. And where we can be supportive of each other.
Interactions, you mean like after the
After the
story's
fact.
been posted or while it's going on to see friends?
Both. Both. If it's so, I said hello. It is actually a client who is on there, and I said hello. Come on. You know, haven't seen you in a while. Thanks for joining. She feels, you know, special. Also not invisible. If she wanted to be invisible, she goes right on. I'll try to interact with people afterwards. Not necessarily, like you can help the other agents out by posting, but be careful when you're on someone else's page. Be respectful that is another agent. That's my page. So don't take over. Good job. Thumbs up. It was great to see you today. Great job on that listing. Always positive, always professional. when you're dealing with other agents, okay? That's really important.
I agree.
Really, really important, right. And I'd rather see you spending your time, instead of on my page, I'd rather see you spending your time on someone else, local, and commenting on theirs. Okay, it's great, we're a family, just be supportive of each other, but be professional and be very cautious about it. Okay?
Yeah, always be positive and be a cheerleader for others. Because like for me, like I genuinely want my friends to succeed, and I'm like, go, go, go! You can win, you know. And I try to encourage my friends to do their best and do their best.
All right, Mrs. Hall, you got 5 minutes. I kind of like dropped up a little bit here. I'm going to send 5 messages.
So is also the point of doing this so that we can feel more comfortable in making our videos when we're talking to people?
I want you to just get comfortable. That Zoom are in the media. Actually, it's Gary Vee that says we're all media companies. It's a media company, comma, that sells real estate. That's our marketing. My kids both. I have a degree, and one of my degrees is MBA in marketing. And my kids, we don't want to sell. We don't want to market. You know, one's a scientist, and the other one, I don't know what she wants to be. But I said, girls, no matter what you do, you're going to have to sell your services. The scientist now sees that. She works for a startup company. They're selling the FDA. Her job is to document it properly, that the FDA sees the data and believes that this is viable and safe and has efficacy. And then the founder's job is to raise money. Even though he's a dorky engineer, he's my ex-husband, so I can say that. Even though he's a dorky engineer, his job now doesn't matter how good the tech is if he can't raise money. He can save millions of lives, but if he can't sell that to the investors, it's never going to come to market. Okay, so we're all in sales. And I just want you to be comfortable telling that story, realizing that this is one of the avenues. You don't have to use social media, but people are looking for you there. Use it to your advantage if you're going to be on it.
Well, and like today I'm going to make a property video, so this is a good practice kind of rehearsal for that, and I'm going to put myself in the video too. So I'm doing that.
I now do my listing videos. Now I am in them with an intro. Now it can't be in the MLS. You can't be in there, so they edit it. There's it on it. Well, they don't put it in the first place. So the guys that have, they pay to edit them, and that's part of my branding. That I'm not in there. You're not going to buy the house because I'm in the video. However, I'm going to get the next listing, right? Because of the way I introduced the home in the video, because of the enthusiasm I showed for the neighborhood, because the knowledge I gave you about, you can go to Bonsa schools here too, not just Fallbrook schools. Okay, so finish your text. Today's expectation, I'm going to teach you some negotiation tips. We're going to understand the most common points of negotiation. We're going to walk through the 3 P's approach to the negotiation process, and we're going to identify negotiation tactics and counter tactics. What objectives do you want to learn? That's what's on the Ignite schedule. This negotiation it's huge. You do all this work, right? Lead gen, lead follow-up, appointments, practice and role play. And then the negotiation is one of the huge differentiators. So this is for you. All this right here is like for you. This is the huge differentiator to your client. And this really sets the note for the experience. So what do you guys want to know from me? What tips or what situations have you had that you want some help with on negotiations? Because I have the agenda, but I want to help you with anything specific too. Anyone? Have you ever had a negotiation go sour? Or any of your parents? Have you ever bought a candy bar in the checkout aisle? Or when you were kids, did you ever get your parents to? Whoever got the candy bar won. They won the negotiation. Okay? We've been negotiating that when you're a baby, how do you get fed? Does mom and dad, do they just feed you? Like, well, when I was born, they fed on a schedule. 4 hours, they didn't care. screened or not, okay, it was different. And there's a guy named Ferber that his thing was let him cry, he was sleeping. I couldn't do it, my kids won that negotiation too. So we're negotiating constantly. What did you guys negotiate today? We must have negotiated something.
Oh God, I was on the phone with an investor this morning and an agent out of our office negotiating. And it was kind of exciting because this investor, she's been really intimidating, kind of just because she has all this cash and, you know, she's been a landlord for 30 years.
Okay, so you knowing that she has cash and landlord, she's negotiating with you before she's even opened her mouth. Okay, that actually brings me to my first negotiation point. And I think there's an agent in the office who said I was a little bit harsh about this. It might have been our ALC group, or I may have posted on Facebook. And, you know, I can be a little bit harsh. I say that when I have a listing and you write an offer, no, it's not even writing an offer. When you make the showing appointment, you have already started your negotiation with me. Remember I said I was a Capricorn? Capricorns get onto a phone and they don't let it go. Or really run and let it go. But let's say I value your time, I value my time. In the MLS, I put explicit instructions. Make your appointment through showing time. No appointments X to Y. I get a text from you. Can I have an appointment for whatever during that time? How are you doing in the negotiation now? I already looked, you're an agent that doesn't follow instructions. Unless you say to me, you know what, showing time's not working. I'm sorry, showing time's not working. Can I make this appointment here? Otherwise, I just think you're lazy. Even though I represent buyers and I know how hard it is to make those appointments, you actually are kind of interviewing, you are interviewing for the job. My client is that house that's in escrow down in Eastlake. They have surveillance inside the house. They have surveillance outside the house. That's written there, okay? They are listening to every single word you say, and she is actually almost live feeding it to me. This agent is she said all sorts of things. Because they work. She's like, I can't believe it. One agent was 45 minutes late. What? Okay, another agent, actually it's the same agent, let the people go through her home, and she lives there. That's their home, remember this. This is someone's home. The agent stood there on his phone in the kitchen and let them just go through the home. Doesn't say a word about it, nothing. She's like, wow, he didn't show my property very well. That's not impressive. So you were negotiating that. We talked about those of you who've done open houses with me. You were actually negotiating with me for your next open house. Because for me, because did you show up on time? Guess what? I know when you opened the lockbox. If you opened it at 12:05, am I impressed?
No, not if we're starting it, man.
Right. Can I forgive? Yes, I can forgive. We're all different ones, right? But these things happen, and we do catalog it. If you leave the lights on, poor Gretchen, if you leave the Roomba in the bathroom and don't pick it up, like is my client telling me you were at that open house and the Roomba, the vacuum, my client says the person who showed it last shut the Roomba off, left it in the middle of the thing. She comes to do an open house, but she doesn't know how the house is supposed to be, but the Roomba's in the bathroom.
I put it back.
You put it back.
Yes,
Yes,
you put it back.
Yes, you put it back. But like those kinds of things, you leave their door unlocked.
And the cats were out too.
The cats were out. That's right. The cats were not. You put the cats back. Absolutely. Please don't bite her. Please don't bite her. There's one gal, luxury house, high heels, left the decks in the floor.
Oh no.
It cost that listing agent. The listing agent had to pay for the floor makeup. Okay?
Or the floors.
Leave the airs on the floor?
Yeah.
You can't wear heels in the floor.
Yes, they were on the floor. Now, that's not a good floor. Okay, it's a high-end floor, but it doesn't mean it was a good choice for a floor.
Or shoes.
Right. So all of the things that you're doing is part of the negotiation. okay? And the way you treat somebody today may be part of the negotiation in 6 years. If, I know we're recording, I want to teach a class, this is kind of that class. Your negotiation starts with don't be a dick, okay? Don't, be nice, be kind. Because guess what, if you were, I'm saving it in your name on my phone. They were mean. I could tell you the name of the guy who made me cry my first 6 months in real estate. Embarrassed me in front of my client, okay? Every time I show one of these listings, I say, look, girl, I was like, please hate this house, please hate this house, please hate this house. I don't say a word to my client because I'm a professional, right? I would take my pride and put my tail back between my legs and go present it, and that embarrassed works every time. They have never liked this house. And the name's like in my head, but I will not speak it.
But what kind of things happening where that was going on?
Say that again?
What kind of thing was happening where
That time?
Yeah.
So I was with, literally, she's probably my second deal, and I was showing a property that we found that was being flipped before they were done with the flip up in Oceanside. And I worked my way in, I got the appointment, and we got it into escrow, and then the quality was awful. It was terrible, and so I asked for these things to be fixed. And I was a rookie in selling, but I was not a rookie in property management. And she could hear him on the phone when I got up there and I said, look, this stuff's not done. We were there for our verification of property condition. I said, the repairs you agreed to were not done. And he said, well, you clearly don't know the way contractors work. And he's talking to me and another woman, and of course all that bristle goes up. You know, he's just being condescending. And then I forget exactly what he said, but I remember I raised my voice. So that's the first thing, is I still let my emotions get out of control. So I raised my voice, it escalated, he raised his voice, I ended up with tears, and I think he said something negative about her too. You know, something about your client's expectations are out of control or something like that. So that didn't go well. We closed the deal, it didn't go well. And it didn't impact the way we closed, but it did impact my client's experience. Okay, so in her eyes, I'm sure I've never done business with her again. She didn't give me a review. She didn't give bad reviews. She was a referral. I actually know the man. He said, you know, some people are just never happy. So I don't think it was me. Yet, I've never done business with her again. She's never answered my calls. I still send her emails. I still send her happy home anniversary, that kind of thing. Yet I wonder sometimes, had I kept my emotions between the lines and handled that more professionally, if it would have been a different outcome.
How do you think you could have handled it now looking back?
Now looking back, I probably would have just said, okay, when are these going to be repairs going to be done? Just focus on the solution. Go to the grow model. What next? Okay, the obstacle is we don't have the rapport and the respect, and it's not getting done. What's next? How are we going to solve it? So I focus on solving the problem rather than the emotions. Okay? So that I want you to have that perspective that everything you do, though, goes into the negotiation. So the next big negotiation, after you've gotten the showing and you've done all that, and we're going to talk about the questions you asked, it's in your offer. You guys, it's amazing. No wonder this office does so well, because you get trained so well. I see so many incomplete, horribly written offers out there from seasoned agents. They're not checking the boxes, they're missing information, they're not putting in the brokerage numbers, they've got my name spelled incorrectly, they have the seller's name spelled incorrectly, and guess what they're doing, especially if I have 10 offers? They're making me do their job.
Oh, that's not good.
Time is really, really important to me. Now, I am a professional, so I still present their offers professionally to my clients. I don't complain about the quality of the offer until they start to ask me, when all things are equal, well, do you want to work with this person? Or when they start to see the offer, and they're like, wait, it's not even filled out with that. Sometimes I'll give, if it's like say the price is good, sometimes I'll give them the opportunity to rewrite it. I'll say, you know, and I did this on this last listing, I said, you're missing the RLAS, and you're missing, I forget what else, it was like 3 things. could you please rewrite it? He didn't. And then he's following up. Well, so are we gonna get a counter? Can we be your first backup? It was the same guy who was 45 minutes late and stood in the kitchen. I was like, I don't even want you to respond to him. She kept tally of who everyone is. Now, I actually don't like them to watch because I feel like there could be future fair housing violations. When I present multiple offers, I use the SDAR form and I neutralize it, so it's offer number 1. I always refer to them whatever offer 1, offer 2, 3, 4, 5, because I don't ever want my clients getting sued or getting into trouble with fair housing. We all have implicit bias. We all have it, so I just don't want that for them. I wish I could keep the agent's name off of it too, because even agent last names will give implicit bias.
So this is an SDR form,
It's a multiple offer something form. You do 5 on a form. Some people set up their own spreadsheets and do it. I like this, and then I make some comments in the bottom so that they're comparing apples and apples. What's the price? Is it cash? What's the contingencies? And I'm calling them offers 1 through 5. It does say what the agency and who the agent is, but it doesn't have the buyer's name on them. I still give them the contracts, but when I have my conversations with them, I present on Zoom or on the phone to my clients. Typically, very rarely is it in person, but occasionally.
Yeah.
But I go over the offers that way. Let's say, okay, let's look at offer number 1. Let's look at 2, and I try to refer to them that way.
do you go over each and every one, or if there's like trash offers, do you just disregard those, or do you have to present even like the bad ones?
You have to present. So one of the important things that they talk about in this class, so we need to be legal. Unless your client has put in writing, I don't want to look at an offer under whatever terms that's legal, because I have had clients in the past. I had one say that couple has different last names, they're not married. I don't want to sell to them.
Wow. They're living in sin.
And you will have to do that, and you will have to do what's proper.
What did
I say? What did I
say?
say? I said, you know what? I don't really know whether they're married or not. It has no bearing on this, and we can't discriminate based on that.
Good for you.
Yeah. He ended up selling to them. He was a FISBO, actually.
Oh,
He
okay.
was a FISBO, so that was an off-market deal. But it doesn't matter. I still have my code about that.
Good.
Right?
Oh,
And then, I'm sorry, for sale by owner.
I got you.
I'm glad you asked. The irony on that is the guy ended up leaving her 3 months later. They weren't married, and she got left with the mortgage in the house. But she just sold it for like $1.4 million, and we bought it for 7 or 8 years ago. So she ended up winning. But I thought the funny irony, not funny, but the irony on that, he cheated on her and bounced. So anyway, you've got to stay within the code of ethics always. And then we all have some of our own codes there too, right? And just always, you sleep with yourself at night, do what's right, be good, be kind, don't be a jerk.
treat people the way they want to be treated.
Treat people the way they want to be treated, treat people the way that you feel you should be treated, the way you want. I think that's actually a very powerful statement. We always learn, treat them the way you want to be treated, yet there's something to be said for treating them the way they want to be treated. And that's where so much of the learning you've done over the last 3 weeks comes in, of asking those questions. Even asking the question, before I end the interview with them, what's the best way to communicate with you? And then I also share with them the best way to communicate with me. I actually have a questionnaire back with Kruse's listing presentation, and the questionnaire says, how do I win with you? It's also part of our interviewing process. How do I win with you, and how do I lose with you? 90% of the time, it's be honest with me, be clear with me. Sometimes they'll surprise you. There might be something you don't know, and the losing is very, very telling.
Is the questionnaire available in the writing?
Probably, okay.
Bias?
I'm sorry?
Is it for bias questionnaire?
It's for anybody. It's any meeting you have with the client. I don't have it on my drive yet, because you guys were with me, I don't have my drive organized.
There is at least all the documents like tonight and all that stuff.
It's probably in the KW listing presentation, and if you Google in Connect, if you Google Diana Kokoska listing presentation, it might be there in the archive somewhere. If not, I will find it and you guys can text me and remind me. But it really is just, how do I live with you, how do I lose with you? The other thing I give them, the questionnaire I moved to is, for listings, is if I were buying this house, what would you want me to know? What are your 5 favorite things about living here that wouldn't be obvious to me, so that I can use that in my marketing materials? Like my favorite one at that first house up in Fallbrook this year was, she told me how during the pandemic they turned their little libraries into food banks, and they had 6 families in the neighborhood who were, I forget what the word is, but like could potentially be going hungry, and they took care of their own in the neighborhood. And to me, that's something that says something about the neighborhood. Without me saying this is a good neighborhood or this is a bad neighborhood, I can tell the story of a neighborhood who cared for their own during the pandemic. So I would never have known that had I not asked that question. So that's a separate thing, but okay.
What are your favorite things about this house that may not be obvious?
That may not be obvious to me. Favorite things about having lived here that may not be obvious.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. Okay, I've already said above house, all house, be professional. Okay, remember your goal. In my materials, I crossed out what their goal was. They said their goal is a signed contract. When I take a listing or I take a buyer, my goal is not a signed contract. What's my goal? Actually, no, that might be the right goal. My goal is closing, a closed escrow. I don't want just a signed contract that falls out of escrow. I want to be in the right escrow. I'm not looking to push anyone into anything. I want the client satisfied. I want a win-win, and I want to close at the end. Actually, when I take a listing, one of the conversations I have is, I don't put a sign in your yard just to have a sign in your yard. I put a sign in your yard. I take your listing to sell your home. If you want an agent that's just going to put a sign in the yard, I'm not the one. And this usually has to do around the pricing conversation. That I take listings to sell them, not to just say I have 10 listings. And sometimes I say, quite frankly, I don't even care if there's a sign on it. Okay? Control what you say to anyone involved in the transaction. If you create anxiety in your client or other parties, you're reducing the leverage in negotiations.
If you do what?
If you create anxiety in anyone in the transaction, you're reducing their leverage in negotiations. So the transaction that I'm about to close looked like an ideal transaction on paper. The gal was very communicative. She is a brand new agent. It's her second transaction. She was communicative. Her offer was clean. It was well written. It was almost too good to be true because it was a 1-week closing on a loan. Wow. I talked to the lender. They promised me they could do it. It all looked good until it didn't. And then she wasn't answering my calls. And the lender wasn't communicating with me. So my trust went from here to down here. My client's anxiety level went through the roof. Through the roof. Military family, we already fell out of escrow once, a baby in the house, trying to buy a home on their forward move, and now we're not on time, and they're not answering my calls, and I can't get questions. So I have to think that they're doing something dishonest immediately, because it was a 1-week transaction. They waived appraisal, they waived loan. I know what's happened in the market the last 2 years. The only contingencies they had were buyer investigations, 5 days. But it's not 1-week close, so it's not a lot of time. However, when you stop communicating with me on day 3, and I know when the appraisal is now scheduled for, what am I thinking?
What the hell happened?
What am I thinking? Why did you stop communicating? What are you trying to do, right? You're not communicating with me because guess what? You're going to use the buyer investigations to get out of this deal. If the appraisal comes in and you go. You're stalling me now. So, and then it got worse. I issued a preemptive notice for the buyer to perform. You guys know what a notice for buyer to perform is. Don't be embarrassed if you don't.
We have to uphold their end of the contract, right?
Correct. And what would a preemptive one be?
Just that you're aware of it.
That you're starting it?
I issued it 2 days before the contingency removal was due. So here's the timeline, and this is why knowing your contracts is incredibly important. Here's the timeline: day 0, day 5, day 7. So this is supposed to be close of escrow. This is open escrow. Okay, and knowing your contracts is part of negotiation. It's a really important part because he or she who knows the contracts can use them to their client's advantage within the letter of the law.
Exactly.
I want a win-win, okay? I do, I want a win-win. But I'm not gonna get pushed around and let you out of the contract with my head in the sand, okay? When you stopped communicating with me, I no longer trust you to do what you said you're gonna do. So we're on day 3, and there's no communication. So I issue a preemptive notice of buyer to perform. Now listen to this. This is really, really, really important. I do not CC the list of buyer's agent on my DocuSign because I don't want her getting this document without a phone call from me. Because this is an aggressive move. It's perceived as aggressive because here in San Diego, it's not our norm. In other areas of the country, it's a norm. Okay? It's going to be perceived as confrontational. I want a win-win. I don't want a confrontation.
So that went directly to the buyers?
I do not know. I do not send that directly. And I don't send requests for repair. So right now, my client has signed it, and they understand the repercussions of signing it. And the next thing I'm going to do is the most important thing for you to remember. I'm going to pick up the phone, and I'm going to call her, and I'm going to explain what I'm doing. Listen, Jacqueline, you're about to get a notice for the buyer to perform, but they're not due for 2 days. She's a brand new agent too. She's probably never received one. I remember the first time I received one, my panties were in a knot. I'm like, and it was preemptive. I was like, what was the issue? I said, I need you to understand, we're all in on this deal. However, we have such a tight timeline. I want to be sure that I protect my client's interest all along the way. I don't accuse her and say, stop communicating. I don't, no negative emotion, professional. And she starts to question again. I said, okay, let's go through this again. I'm gonna walk you through. I don't say, you should know your contract. Go talk to your coach. Go talk to your mentor. I'm not gonna do that, okay? Don't be that agent, especially as you've been in it. And I've made those mistakes. I've been kind of short with people sometimes. But you know what? Remember, she started the negotiation. She was really good and communicative. She did the contracts well. She was gracious. She was all of those things. So
Until she disappeared.
and then she disappeared. So my trust is gone, and I issue a preemptive notice of buyer to perform.
So sorry, who does that go to when you did that? Who does it go to?
So at first, I just have my client sign it, and my TC sees what I'm doing, okay?
Okay.
And then, after I make the phone call, then I push send to her and her TC. We don't send things directly to their clients unless very rarely they give us the information and ask us to do so. Sometimes they'll have a limited service agreement. It's not a good move, okay?
No.
The thing is erase your client's emails when you forward things, erase their emails. My client had mentioned to me last night, the same client, she says, it's probably a really good thing you've been removing her email from the things you forwarded us. And I said, that's not by any mistake. And she knows it. They've worked with me before. Because my client's angry right now. They're frustrated, which is a shame. Okay, so I issue that. But guess what? Melinda didn't know one important thing. So, in the contract by default, who knows this? When you get any seller disclosure, I'm just going to call it SDNHOA, how many days legally in the contract by default do they have to review it and back out of the deal?
17?
It's a little
It's
17?
5.
Okay.
This is incredibly important, you guys, that you understand this.
That's
So, we had the HOA documents when we opened escrow. That's seller disclosures. Any seller disclosure, any material fact, okay? Forgot to told them that somebody died in there 2 weeks ago. That's a material fact, and they can get out even after contingency for release. They have 5 days statutory to get out of the contract, and you're avid as the listing agent. Do that avid immediately. Do not delay. You're giving them an out if you delay your avid. Not the buyer's agent's avid, the listing agent's avid. I'll write that on there too. They have 5 days. Now, we can shorten these in the contract. I didn't. So guess what I just did to my client? Whatever day they get these, if it's not on day 0, they just got 5 days. Okay? I owned my mistake, by the way. My client doesn't listen to me. They got it on day 3. They got all of our disclosures on day 0. Okay? Mike C. Mindy was right on top of it. Okay? They got that on day 0. So it was okay for me to issue the notice of buyer form on this day. But they got the HOA on day 3. So guess what? They have 5 more days. They have, look at this. They have day 8. After close of escrow, they can legally back out of the deal. And they don't have to tell me why. All they have to say is, we got the HOA, we got like the HOA. Okay?
So the moral is to make sure
There's a million morals to the story.
the disclosures need to be shorter than your timeline then.
Correct. So I hit all, yes, and I can coach you through the specifics of which things need to be shortened when you're doing your deals. They not only need to be shorter than the timeline, they need to be shorter. So this also messed up. So this notice of the buyer form that I issued, I get a pushback. There's a mistake again in negotiation. This is why I'm using this as an example illustration. What should have happened when they decide they're going to push back? Should they have emailed me, texted me, called me, and who should it be? When they realize, when they're going to invoke this, when they decide, no, Melinda, you cannot issue us a notice to perform because we have 5 days and we got the HOA disclosures on day 3. What is a professional, strong way to negotiate that keeps the relationship intact?
The agent communicate with you?
Agent should have picked up the phone and called. Remember I said it's so important right here to call? If the agent had picked up the phone and said, Melinda, I understand what you're trying to do, but we didn't get the HOA docs until day 3, and my client really is feeling shoved around by the whole buyer process because it's not been a good experience for buyers. You know, you're their 4th house, they had to pay $25,000 more than their budget, et cetera, et cetera. Had she had that conversation with me, our relationship would remain intact. Instead, her TC, not her TC emails me back, copies the world, and says, sorry, this notice of buyer form is not valid. She says the whole thing's not valid. She's right. But she says the whole thing is not valid. We have 5 days because we received it on 3. Here's our proof, kind of thing. We start to get in a pee-pee match. Okay? We start to get in that. And she mentioned she's been in the business for 17 years in that email. So now she's posturing in the negotiation. She's probably trained in negotiation. She's not trained in win-win. My ruffles are up. I'm on vacation. Okay? I'm doing this for Mexico instead of chilling. And she's right. And so now I'm like, well, why? Okay, you've had them now for a couple days. I think now we're at day 5, right? You've had them for a couple days. And by the way, 16. So appraisal is scheduled for day 6. Okay?
Starting so close.
Appraisal is scheduled for day 6. And so they're going to use HOA to either renegotiate or back out of the deal when the appraisal comes in low. And I am 80% convinced my appraisal is going to come in low. I'm in escrow for $775. The home was originally listed for $750. I dropped it to $700 to get it in, and I don't have any comps over $750. I don't know how we're going to do this, and they're going to use it to get out. And so, but mind you, in this time frame from day 3 to day 6, no communication. Okay. She is radio silent, and so is the lender.
Whoa. Again?
No responses to my emails. No responses to my texts. So our communication's broken down. So therefore our negotiation's broken down. Now it's all mistrust. Right? So I reissue everything the way it needs to be reissued. I have lots of emails back and forth with broker Bob and Mark to make sure I'm doing it all properly. Because I did find out that a portion of this was still valid. It's just the other one wasn't, so I issued another. The TC's trying to argue with me that it doesn't have to be done that way, and it's like, no, I checked with my broker.
When were the buyer investigations due by?
Day 5. And they released everything but that on day 5 at 10 o'clock at night. Now, not give me any breaks. Okay? Oh, and the inspection report came, their request for repairs comes in on day 5. That's the email I got. I didn't get a phone call before I got the request for repairs. I got the full reports, and I got a long email detailing everything that's wrong with the house. And they're asking for $2,425 for buyer credit. Okay, it's piddly. It really, to me, on a house of $775,000 in a market that has 2 weeks of inventory, I'm like, are you kidding me?
They're looking for excuses to get out.
Are you kidding me? My client was like, just give him the money. Just give him the money. He agreed to it.
They were gonna give them the credit?
They give him the credit. Because my client wants their focus, so your job, because you're negotiating with the client right now too.
Yeah.
And this is an interesting thing for you to think about, man. You are negotiating with your client because your job is to help them to reach the decisions that get them to their original motivation. My client has to move. They don't have to win the negotiation. They need to move. So you have to keep them focused on that because you get in the emotions with them, they're gonna get in it and they're gonna get mad. That's why listing sellers don't respond to lowball offers because they're all angry. And we'll talk about the script. Mine respond to them 99.9% of the time. So anyway, we go through that. There's no conversation, and we're not going to close on time. That's completely apparent. The lender can't close on time. We decide to go ahead and give them an extension to the 19th, day 9. That's tomorrow, right? Okay.
Oh, this is still happening.
No, that was yesterday.
Today's the 20th.
Okay. We give them this. We give them 24, 25. Because my client's still going to get what they want. Okay. I had to bring her. She was like, Melinda, I just feel like all sorts of interesting words of how she feels. And like, when are we going to get a break? It's going to be the same way in Virginia. I feel like we didn't get anything given to us when we came here 4 years ago. It was a hot market 4 years ago. Yeah. They felt like they were getting screwed and all sorts of things like that. And I brought her back, because that's our job, and said, listen, I know you feel that way, but let's look at the big picture. And you bring the tone down. I'm pretty intense. Bring the tone down. You bought this house for $450 4 years ago. You're going to walk away with $250,000, $300,000 of equity. This is amazing. You are in a position of power. It's just an unpleasant negotiation. I said, you're not being screwed. Well, what if they walk away? We can't control them. We can only control our own behavior. What do you want to do? They ask inevitably, what would you do? Depending on my relationship with them, I might tell them what I would do. And say, well, let's look at the facts. You need to be in Virginia. You also have a 2-month free rent back, by the way.
Oh,
a month and a half free rent back, whatever. You need to be in Virginia. You want to be looking for the house. You told me you know the neighborhood. We've got you going. You may even be moving sooner than you thought. I would give them the 24, 25, and I would close on the 19th.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. Let's keep the goal in mind. Okay, I'll get you to the finish line. It gets better.
Oh God.
It gets better. So, 3 days. So 3 days. 1, 2, 3. This day, I have my client sign a preemptive demand to close.
I've never heard of this.
Can you explain that?
Yes. So you have to have delivered the notices of the buyer to perform for all the contingencies. But let's say that now they haven't closed on time. Sellers cannot unilaterally cancel a contract just because they want out. It's actually California favors the buyers. It's very hard for sellers to get out. They can get out, however, if the buyer doesn't perform, if you've issued the notices for them to perform, and then you have issued the demand to close. And you can do that up to 3 days before the home is due to close. And if you do it on the day that you were supposed to close, they still have 3 days from that day to perform. So if I wait until yesterday to issue the demand to close, it gives them 10, 11, 12, and this happens to be on the weekend, so it gives them 2 more days. They actually get 5 more. So as their fiduciary, I need to be on top of it. And this is something I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a little better job, I think. I think I'm gonna start to let the buyer's agent know in the beginning of the contract, look, we're gonna issue preemptives on all of these and explain to them why. You know, you get burned once, you learn something from it, and you move forward. Okay, so, and you've got to do it in a positive way so that they understand. This is all about the negotiation, saying we're just, you know what, we're all in. So we've issued that, and when I get out of here, I have to call the buyer's agent because they've actually asked for, we're actually closing on this day. We're closing on Tuesday, the 25th. Okay, so now it's 14 days. I knew we couldn't do it in 2 weeks, but I was willing to try.
Those are broken glass.
Okay, that's all right. So 14 days we're gonna close. Guess what they asked me for last night? 4 days.
They asked you for more time.
Well, if you're a buyer's agent, what should you ask for? Who knows this? Kevin, Min, who else has closed deals in here? Okay. What should you be asking for? We're out of contract now. Closing is supposed to occur here. As the buyer's agent, you have to go to court to get your earnest money back. You want to be in contract. Okay? Which means you need to ask for an extension of time. That's the proper thing to do. Even though I'm nice and I said, oh, don't worry about it, we'll close on Monday. Your job to represent your client is also to take you're playing chess, not checkers. If we end up in court, you need to be able to stand in front of the judge and say, well, why didn't you issue an extension of time? Oh, well, Miss Melinda said it was fine. Judges, that does not hold up. Like, judges are not going to favor you in that. So her job is to ask for an extension of time, and my job is to counsel my clients to say no. Because if I give them the extension of time, what happens if we don't close on the 25th?
It's gonna mess up things for your sellers.
Plus 3-4 days of another demand to close because I didn't cancel the contract. Close.
You didn't cancel the original one.
Because I
It's supposed
have
to
to
close
cancel
on the
that
night.
stuff. Because my buyer still has their eye on the prize. They still want to win. I know it's complicated, you guys, and I know that this is bar structure negotiation, but this is all negotiation. All negotiation. And the reason I haven't just said no by email to the buyer's agent is, and I talked this through with my client this morning, this buyer's agent, they have released all their contingencies right now. Their loan documents are out for signatures. They're going to sign on Monday. I think I'm going to cancel the contract. Could they choose not to sign on Monday? Could they, the verification of property condition isn't an excuse not to close, but could they dig in their heels and just not wire the money? You know how the one way you can stop a closing is just not wire the rest of your deposit. Okay? So I don't want to upset them. So the conversation that I've been instructed to have is, listen, Jacqueline, my clients are all in. We're looking forward to closing on Tuesday. We're looking forward to this. However, I've been instructed, I'm going to use the broker this time. They used the broker before, but I didn't even tell you about them not releasing the HOA documents until 10 p.m. on day 5.
You did.
I did, okay. So I'm just going to say, I've been advised by my broker that it's not in my client's best interest to extend this again. Because if for some reason your client doesn't close on the 25th, we have to extend it another 3 days. But we're all in. And that calm voice, we're all in. They're looking forward to meeting them. They're going to be there during the verification property condition. They're looking forward to it. Another reason, my client's going to be a tenant on Wednesday. because they have it, so we need to keep the relationship okay, right? However, it's really funny. They asked in the midst of this, when I'm in the airport in Mexico 2 days ago, she finally calls me, and I don't usually chew agents out. This time I chewed her up. I said, look, you didn't call, you didn't explain what was happening. You could have said, that's when she told me her client was feeling frustrated with the process, and they didn't want to be rushed, and all of this. I said, but all along I felt like you were just planning to see if the appraisal came back home. And then, we tried to be nice, kind of. And then she asked me, this might not be the best time, but my client wants to know if your client will leave her rugs behind. And you asked last night when you would speak for your client. I laughed, and I said, no, she's not. I said, my clients are pissed. They missed out on a house originally because of this. I said, she won't be leaving anything behind. My client would have left more cookies. And seriously, she probably would have, and I know she would have left more cookies and a welcome basket and everything else. That's not happening. So, but why? For what reason, you guys? That's the thing. This is weird. I still don't know why we're closing a week late. I really don't.
Did you ever find out why she was out of communication with you?
So what she said to me was, I knew you went to Mexico. Now I didn't leave for Mexico for after these dates, by the way. I left on Sunday night. I knew you were going to Mexico. I didn't want to bother you. I said, I was texting you and calling you. You were bothering me. We should have had this conversation in the airport on Sunday, and no problem. I said, this really did bother me. I said, but this is my job. Right. This is what we do. You don't get to decide not to bother me on vacation. This is what I do.
What it was on the third day she started looking at the sparkly things and she was comply with that permission. And then,
she maybe did.
Communication, I feel like.
Doesn't she want to close as soon as possible as she can? You would think that she wants to close as soon as possible, get her money and get this out of her way if she could have, if she didn't have any issues with money or whatever. So why would anybody do that if you have everything ready to go?
I don't know.
But she's a new agent.
I still, no, but she has a mentor. She has a mentor. Yeah. I still believe that in my heart, that they were jockeying in case the appraisal came in wrong. Right.
The lender can make sense.
And can I tell you guys a secret, even though it's not a secret?
Yeah.
Okay, remember I talked about knowing your contract? I had calculated this all out, and I already had a plan that I was not going to rush to let the appraiser in for that exact reason. Now, I didn't have to delay him. He couldn't get in until Monday, but I was not going to bend over backwards to get him in on day one because I knew they could use their inspection contingencies to get out because I've seen agents play dirty during this market. Now, that's part of negotiating.
What did the appraisal come in, low or high?
It came in at value, or at least at value. And when it came in higher, we wouldn't know. It came in at value.
Okay.
And I
So you couldn't use that then?
They don't tell you if it comes in higher.
said, no, they don't. No. Don't tell the buyer's agent if it comes in higher, because then they're gonna feel like they got a crappy deal.
Well, they do tell one side.
I would tell the seller.
Well, as in the appraiser does tell
The
one
appraiser
side.
tells the buyer. Well, the
Yeah.
appraiser tells the lender. The appraiser doesn't communicate directly with the buyer or the seller, and rarely the listing agent even. They just communicate with us to get the appointments. This was actually a rare appraiser that connected or communicated with me by email. So remember I CC'd you on my email to him? So it was a rare case that I got to email him a package, and I let him know, because you do walk a fine line, I let him know, I'm gonna email you a package of comps and improvements and market stats in the house. My client said to me, Melinda, why would you bother? They waived their appraisal. I said, because I want to be sure. It's my job to make sure you present your house to get the highest value. I just want to be sure. So remember that. I could have just gone on vacation. It was during vacation. I could have just gone on vacation and said, no, whatever it comes out is whatever it comes out. She's also a baker, and you're not supposed to do this. She baked cookies right before you got there and said, oh, I'm taking this to my friend. Would you like to? She's like, I'm not supposed to take it. She's like, oh, you'd be doing me a favor. And she made it. I'm sure it didn't hurt. And then he asked her a question. He was looking for reasons to give her a good value, a good appraisal. And he says, is there anything in this house I might have missed? Are there any views or anything? And I'd actually never seen this view because she had blackout shades on baby's room. There's a view of the Olympic Training Center. And she opened up the blinds and he said, wow, it was exactly what he was looking for to give her some extra value, because that little bit.
Good.
So there's sometimes it's, when the appraiser comes, sometimes it's good to have an owner there, or yourself, if you can meet them as a listing agent. And that's all part of the negotiation. If you're a great agent, you're working for everyone. I want a win-win. I don't want to make the buyer come up with 25 grand out of their pocket. Who wants that for anyone? I do know other agents. There's an agent I asked about, you know, what he enjoys most about this business. He says, winning. I love giving it to the other agent on the negotiation and winning. That doesn't make me feel good. I want a win-win. Okay, that's what, and that's our culture. So.
Melinda, is there a trend line available on the drive with estates?
No, it's in the contracts. I'm thinking it's section 25. When I asked these questions, honestly, Mark sent the contract back to me, marked up and highlighted, and I still didn't get it, and I asked him again. He's like, read the contract. I said, I read the contract, I still don't understand, because this actually has to do with weekends and things. You've got to study them. And it's another aha to me. It doesn't matter how long you're in the business, you still sometimes have to go back to this and do the math and check it out. So slow down. You don't need to write contracts in 15 minutes. Write them carefully. They're legal binding agreements. Okay. Okay. So, what was our time? 2:30. Okay. Does anyone need a break, or are you guys okay? Everybody's just going with it. Okay. So we went back to motivation over and over again, right? I wish I knew a little more about the buyer's motivation. I knew they were moving from an apartment in North Park. I know they have a baby, that kind of thing, but I just didn't have that going. So refer back to motivation. Don't reveal too much. Listen more than you talk. This is especially important at open houses. Can't tell you how many agents have told me it's a divorce. That is not yours to tell. Okay, that makes a distressed sale when it's a divorce. I look at when I see the closets, I'll whisper to my client it's a divorce. Because I can tell somebody's clothes are all gone, okay? Or there's telltale signs. You want to come to a good deal, but you represent your clients. Don't give away too much information. Yeah, they gotta, like, I'll tell them that, especially in this market where buyers are concerned with sellers doing too long. Yes, they're military, they're PCSing, they've already found the house. Like, it's factual, and I have their permission to share it. Because I actually put right in the supplemental confidential remarks, call listing agent, lease back needed till July 22nd. Because I just want them to write the right offer. I want the buyer's agents to succeed and write a good offer, right? I want this as a win-win. I want the highest price and the best terms. So wouldn't I guide them to that? I am not a fan of the words highest and best. I'm just not a fan of that because I'm not helping you to help your client, you are helping mine. Because quite often, what people in a room where you can't see, like let's say you have a blindfold on, right? And that's what highest and best is. I have a blindfold. So close your eyes for a second. And I tell you to walk forward as far as you can go. Are you going to walk forward confidently until you hit the wall? Or are you going to walk forward and you're going to put your arms around and you're going to go really slowly? Yeah. To me, highest and best is walking forward with a blindfold. Versus if I tell them the back wall is 10 yards off, walk till you get to the back wall. I've helped to guide them so that they can walk confidently. So I'm looking to help them walk confident. That's also what I'm doing when I'm the buyer's agent, asking the listing agent questions. I'm not asking dumb questions of what's on the MLS, please. Do the research. And just listen. So when you ask, this is the question I ask for price. And in this market, I'll say, okay, let's roll play this right now. Okay, I'm calling you, you're the listing agent. Okay. Hey Gretchen, I showed your property on Main Street, great listing. My client wants to make an offer on it.
Perfect, sounds great.
Right. When are you reviewing offers?
It'll be by Thursday.
By Thursday, okay. Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon.
Thursday at 4 p.m.
4 p.m., okay. And your client's not gonna take any offers before that?
Before yes, but not afterwards. Afterwards, they want to do for sure.
No, I mean, are they going to accept an offer before Thursday by any chance? Like, if they get a really great
no,
offer?
we're gonna wait for 4 p.m.
Okay, you're gonna wait, okay, 4 p.m. on Thursday. And how many offers do you have right now?
At the moment, we are taking offers and we're not sure, but we're just taking them until 4 p.m.
Okay. And the offers you have, are they over ask? Do you have any over ask already?
We do have a few that are over asked.
Okay. Let's pretend the house is listed at 725. If she's softened up a little bit there, say, oh wow, do you have any over 750?
We have a range that goes up to how much was this again?
750, I just asked you about.
750.
Listed for 725.
Oh, okay. We have prices that go about 50 to 70 asking price.
Not really asking price.
Yeah.
So at this point, depending on the market, I might ask her percentages, I might ask her raw numbers, but I didn't ask her what are your offers now. I want to find out, the first thing is she going to tell me anything? And so I'm going to be a little like, do you have anything over asking price? I don't ask, do you have any offers? Because that doesn't tell me enough information. They might have one really lousy offer. I ask right now, how many offers do you have? Because most agents, contrary to popular belief, I choose to believe most agents won't have. And they won't say they have 5 offers when they have 1. Okay, my experience is most don't find. And you flush that out pretty fast if they do. So I like to ask that more quantitative question because they're not gonna, they're not gonna lie about it. Because if you ask me if I have any offers, I'll be like, oh yeah, we've got offers. I might only have 1, but I've got offers and I'm gonna use the S on purpose because I'm gonna make you think I have more. I have offers. They're not big ones. And then another question that I haven't asked much lately, but I think with our market shifting, you want to think about this, is another question I'll ask is, are any of them in-house? Are any of them from your own team?
We do have multiple different offers.
Okay. Are any of the offers your own clients, Gretchen? Your own buyer?
What would I say in that case?
Do they respond to that?
Some do, and the reason I ask it is they don't always put it in the MLS properly. Most people don't know how to do it, but a lot of people will do a variable commission if they bring the buyer.
What would you respond in that case?
If I'm honest, if I brought half of the buyer, yeah, you're competing with one month.
Okay.
But I also would put it in the MLS properly, so you already know that I don't have a variable commission, so it doesn't really matter money-wise. The reason a variable commission matters is it's costing the seller less money if I bring the buyer. Okay, that's something that was more common 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I just want you to know. You can always run by me, okay, what questions should I be asking? Some listing agents aren't even going to answer your call. Some are not going to give you any information. If you call me, I'm going to give you information that's going to try to lead you to a stronger offer for my seller. I represent my seller. I'm going to try to lead you to that. I'm not going to lie to you, and I'm going to try to lead you to that. And then, so listen, she was cautious. And I think the next thing is don't be attached to the outcome. Okay, so when we're doing our first few deals, it's like we really wanted to accept our offer. We really wanted to close. And we need to just remember that it's not us buying it, it's not us selling it, it's not our commission. Don't count your commissions until they're in the bank. I have heard close friends of mine, even in this office, and I've coached her around it, I really need this, I can't pay my bills. And I've had to say, that doesn't matter. It's not the right house for your client. They don't want it under these terms. What you need or what you don't need doesn't matter.
Because you're working for them.
You're working for them. It's also why, have you ever heard the commission scripts when you're at the listing appointment script when they ask you about the 6% and people like count off the dollars? It's not about me. Why am I talking about how much commission I keep? You don't care that I pay 30% taxes, 30% broker, and then I have a buck left.
Oh, they do.
Right, they don't care about me. I turn that around right away to about what they're gonna net.
Right.
Because it's about them. If I'm talking about what I'm bringing home, you know, that's not it.
You don't have to bring home
I like how they break it, they say 2.5% goes to the buyers. 1%, like for example, was marketing, whatever, and or something like that.
But you're not spending 1% on
I know, but
marketing.
maybe
That's
not.
the problem. Then they can say, well, I want to see your receipts. When they found out it was $1,000 on a $20,000 commission.
They don't say that, they say 2.5% we have to give to the buyers, and right, you know, kind of sounds better than 6%.
So I bills for that. I'll say, well, my commission is 3.5%, and I recommend you don't pay the buyer's agent anything less than 2.5%.
Right.
And that comes out of what you get brokerage. So that's up to you how
And
you
then
phrase
you
that.
have parties.
That's from strength and confidence, and that's a negotiation. Where you're in a negotiation class, your commission's a negotiation. I'll answer that in a second. And this is your first test of the negotiation is, did you get the appointment with them? Okay. The next test is the commission, and if I automatically go into, well, you know, commissions are negotiable. However, my commission is 3.5%. I recommend you pay the buyer's agents 2.5%. And Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you know, if I am willing to give away my commission right now, my own money, how hard am I going to negotiate for you when it's time to negotiate the price on your home? And that usually shuts it right down because they want a strong, confident negotiator.
And why do you?
And that's when you go like this. And quiet. Like I actually wouldn't even say that part unless they question my commission after that. And never ever negotiate your commissions by text or email or on the phone unless it's a Zoom and that's how you're doing your consult. Because I have to do phone walk with people who are out of town. Always. That's a great question. We'll discuss that when we meet.
I had it was an appointment after the house, and as soon as I walked in the door, the lady was like, it's the different one I was telling you about, the one I had to find. But as soon as I walked in, she's like, all right, well, how much you charging? If you're going, I'm not paying more than 4%. I was like, everything's negotiable. I said, I haven't even looked at your house to even see if I want to list it.
Right, takeaway clothes right there. Oh, you might know.
Anyway, I like that.
What is the top reason that you say you're worth 3.5%? What's one of the?
Oh, this is a good question, Gretchen asked. Gretchen asked, what's my top reason why I take 3.5%? Well, I can show them the stats that my homes that I sell for more than the average agent in San Diego. Okay, so you've already got money in the bank when you hire me, and I use neurolinguistic programming. When you hire me, when I sell your home, you net more. Ms. Seller, what I understand from you is that you're thinking about the cost of me. Yet what we really want to think about is how much you're going to take home at the end of this sale. That is what you want, isn't it? So that's the negotiation. Do I always get full commission? No. Do I always even start out charging that? No. It's your own business. You get to charge what you want, depending on what it is. Have I walked away from deals for too low of a commission? Yes. Have I taken deals that I later resented for too low of a commission? Yes. Have I taken them lower for strategy, especially earlier in my career? There was an area, a luxury area I was farming. I wanted my sign in the yard. I really wanted my sign in the yard because I was farming it, and I needed them to see that I was working there, and I did it for lower commission. I probably wouldn't do that now. It depends.
That was earlier in your career.
Right, and it did the job, but it got my sign in the yard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did what I wanted it to do.
What do you do when the conversation, because this happened to me with one of the people, but I was on like a three-way with my coach too, because it was like going to be both of us. All he kept asking was about the commission. Like, that's like literally the first thing, like, what's the commission? Okay, why? Like, how do you get away from that to show what you can do? Because she kind of like stepped in a little bit too, but then.
I would try and I would be like, well, it sounds like what you're going pay is very important to you, and I want to give you the attention that deserves. Could we first lay out, first look at the house and see what it's going to sell for, take a look at what you're going to net, and show you what I will do to net the most, and then I promise you, we'll discuss the commission. Sometimes they might push, and if they're going to discuss it in full, then I'm going to say, okay, my commission's 3.5%, 2.5% to the buyer. Should we continue? And if their answer is no, I'm going to get up and walk away. It's okay, I just saved an hour. It's all right. And that's the not being attached to the outcome.
And being confident.
And being confident. And yeah, you know, do I have a lot of business or do I have bills to pay? Okay. At the middle of 2020, I would have taken anything. Actually, that's not true. So January of 2020, I walked away from a 2% listing. Redfin took it at 2%, sold it 3 days later. And it was $1.2 million. And I sure could have used that money. So later in the year, when I had a client, I just helped them buy a house. I've done a great job. And now they wanted me to list their house for sale in Chula Vista. And I have to pay her sister a referral fee, a 25% referral fee, and she knows this. And they want to list the house with me for 3% total. And I said, well, I'm not going to lose your business over commission. 3% is not very good. And then I went into why. And she's like, well, the market's so hot, the house is going to sell. And that's I use my signature line, if it's the right person, any monkey can sell a house. It takes a tool in this market. It takes a true professional to get it to the closing table if they agreed upon terms and conditions. I got 4% from them. Wow. And I don't know if I'll do business with them. Okay? Because that level of that's a lack of respect for what we do as a profession. That level of lack of respect showed up again later in the transaction when the buyer's agent made a mistake on the contract, and she wanted he and I to split that mistake. He didn't check the box for who was going to pay for the owner's title insurance, and she refused.
So as for having stats, what would you recommend a good one to be? Like, I know there's probably a lot, but just
this is a hard one to find. Yeah. So I would go in, like, whatever the zip code or the neighborhood is, and I would run the numbers of what the average list price is, and then what they are actually, you can just look at it in fast stats. It'll say the original sales price to original list price. And let's say it's 4.3%. And then I would run mine. And I wouldn't do it for just that neighborhood because I'm not a neighborhood expert. So I think I said this the other day, stats can be slightly manipulated. So I'm going to manipulate them in that sense. And I'm going to show them that my average listing to sales price is 8.4%. I don't actually know what it is right now, but I'm going to show them that. And I'm going to say, look, you're already pocketing 3% more by listing with me than the average agent in the zip code. I'm not average, and I'm going to say that.
But what if we are new? What if it was me doing it?
Then I would probably look at our KW markets, like our market center stats, or my coach's stats.
Oh,
so that would be when I make my coach part of the team. One of my people that was in my pod last year, Sherry Peter, didn't have that many stats. She was new here. So we created a listing presentation. I went with her, and we used me as part of her team, and we used our combined stats to go up against them.
So just like my business partner, who is working very closely with me, has, and I like combined has me in this stats.
Right. Very few. You know what? I don't get that objection that much about my commission.
Okay.
Because people,
the way people are making it sound, you're like, is it that out there?
It is rough. It is rough, and yet I don't get it that much. And part of that is the way my business is done. My business is done in referrals, so there's already a trust factor. And part of it is, you said it before, is confidence. People they're about to sell the biggest asset they've ever had. They want to know you're confident that you can do the job. So this is the time to pull your shoulders back and to be confident, not boastful. Not boastful at all. Do not promise them you can't deliver, but to be confident that you can get the job done. And for them to be confident that if they're not happy with your service, that they can have a conversation.
How about being a buyer's agent and you have that permission that is given to you by somebody else? Can you negotiate? I mean, I never look at it when I go and look at the houses. and look at
Can
all
you
the
negotiate it?
I never look how much am I gonna get there, and I would never probably make a decision in this market based on that, right? Because there is not that much out there, but can you ever negotiate it, or is just whatever it is?
So first off, being a fiduciary for your client means that you're not
Right, I know.
commission. And there are agents who will not show it based on commission.
Yeah.
They'll steer their clients.
I mean, I never even thought of looking at it,
Okay.
you know, I just.
Right, I don't either. It's usually when it's coming up that I'm like, wow, it's 2%. That's
Yeah.
or it's 1%. There's a guy in Shadow Ridge in Oceanside, New Marcos area that was paying $1. I don't know if he's still in business, but it's disrespectful. But regardless, is it negotiable? That is actually something that's best to negotiate in your BRE.
Right.
So if you are going to, and I know people who are agents that are like, my rate as a buyer's agent is 3%. And they'll negotiate that in their BRE, and it will say you'll make it up if the percentage is 2.5%. I don't believe that the environment, and it might be my own mindset limiting belief, I don't believe that the environment in San Diego is such that we really can do that. Because guess what? There's 27,999 other agents. They'll do it for whatever reason they want us.
But you can at least negotiate 2.5, which is
You can,
norm.
and I want you all to know you cannot do that with a VA buyer. Don't ever let me see your offer. You have that on your offer about that on your sheets. It is not allowed that a VA buyer pays an agent commission or your TC fee.
And you definitely can negotiate that with a listing agent.
You can negotiate it with a listing agent outside of the offer. It is not part of the offer.
Oh.
It is, and you would do it before you even show the house.
Okay.
And most listing agents will say, if you want to control your commission, honey, go get the listing yourself. That's the way most agents respond.
It's not the conversation that you usually have, right?
That's the way most of them respond today. Now, in my BREs, I do put in a commission. That is not part of our regular addendum, but in my own BREs, I do say that if we negotiate an off-market property and the seller refuses to pay commission, you will pay me X%.
Right.
And that's usually the biggest sticking point in negotiating my BREs. I take off the punitive part at the end that Mark has. I don't like that because I will never pursue that. I'm like, you don't want to, you're going to mess with me, I'm just going to walk away. But I do tell them that is the biggest sticking point right there. Then I explain to them that I've always, thus far, been able to negotiate my commission from the seller. However, I don't want to limit your options in this market. I want to be able to have you work with any seller, and it's only if you agree to the terms that we're going to do this, and then they do this. That's also the negotiation too, that I used the phrase that, I know Paul went over BREs with you yesterday. I say, and all of my clients sign a BRE, because they do. And that helps usually too. Now, occasionally, do I have a client? Have I worked with a client without a BRE signed? Yes. Have I had to tear up BREs? Yes. Have I, all of that? Do I break my own rules occasionally? Sure.
How do you tear up the?
You don't tear it up. You get an email. I can think of one that went bad. Yeah, one that went bad. Okay. So what are we negotiating? And this is really essential. And you guys have been trained really well on this. The past Ignites in less of a seller's market, I've really spent a lot of time on what we negotiate in the contract, but I know that the training here is very good about that. I've seen the contracts you're writing. But the first thing, obviously, is the price. Okay, when you're, as a listing agent, you're negotiating price, and as a buyer's agent, you're negotiating price. Okay, about your list negotiating price when you take the listing. The market's shifting, you guys. Don't take overpriced listings. Which I know Steven just went into some of the graphics on that. I want you to dial into his scripts in a stabilizing market, in a shifting market, because you're going to need to price ahead of the market. In the last 2 years, we could price ahead of the market in the wrong way, too high, and still be okay. You're not going to be able to do that anymore. So you're going to need to learn the negotiation skills with the sellers. And I usually let the statistics do the heavy lifting. I'm going to show them the comps I'm gonna turn them to them and say, well, let's see, because most of them have been in those houses, you haven't, unless you're the neighborhood expert. How does your house compare to this? Okay, so it's 100 square feet smaller, this one's got a view, did you notice their countertops, quartz? I know yours are beautiful granite, yet that's not what the buyers are buying right now, okay? You'll hear this with a lot of older clients. Oh, but we redid the kitchen, but it was done in the 90s, and it's now okay. You don't want to hurt their feelings, but you've got to get them to realistic price. And there's some great pricing tools to talk about that, but that's part of the negotiation. When you're making offers, price is part of the negotiation. That's the first thing they say. So that's going to be a big part of it. You already know that. But price is not always the best thing. We saw that in this market more than ever, that okay, I'm gonna offer you $800,000 for that house. Actually, I just got a call from a listing agent this morning. My client missed out on an offer, went into escrow, fell out. I texted him the day he came back on and said, hey, my client wants to resubmit that same offer. She said, sorry. She almost kind of laughed because it is a little bit of a low offer. It's for $955, and she said, oh, we've gotten way over that, but it didn't go pending. I got a text from her last night and said, there's a buyer still interested. Then she called me today. She said, yeah, the seller offered us a lot more, but you know what? They don't qualify for what they offered. And they don't have the money for an appraisal gap. Okay, they offered an appraisal gap, but they don't have it.
They didn't have the proof of funds.
They didn't have it. I saw that a lot in this market, that people would offer this high price, and they were just risking that the appraisal came in. They didn't have the money. They didn't have the money.
That's so risky.
So going through those numbers is very important for your due diligence. So anyway, my client has, they have a potential to have that in this property now. Do you think if I had been rude to her, do you think my negotiation with her on this started a month ago when she first went into escrow, when I first showed the property, and I followed up and I said, and I did ask her, you know, I need help with this client. They're thinking that the market's shifting, that they're going to get under asked now. Could you tell me what it was in escrow at? And at that, so I already had a conversation with her. I've been nice. I've said thank you. I appreciate you helping me that. Your language use matters. The way you speak to other people, that communication really matters. And I stay in touch. So the terms. Terms sometimes can be more important. The last 3 listings I had, they got 2 months of rent backs. Those terms were essential to these families. 2 of them have kids in school till June 12th. But they need the houses closed to buy at their next tour due. So that was more important than the price to one of those 2. And then the terms, I had one that we closed in March where I represented the buyer. They were a cash buyer, and we were able to take the property off the market before it went active. It was incoming soon. Because being a cash buyer, they could give them a 6-month free rent back. Because these people think they were finding themselves in financial trouble, and they don't know where they're going. But the 6-month free rent back was more important to them than anything else. So they took the house off the market.
Wow.
And my client, it's very rare that you could do that because it was a cash. My client had already lost out on 3 offers previously, so they came in, you know, shooting for bear, I think that's the term. They came in ready to go. I got lucky, I was the second agent. So they were ready to go with me. I looked like a hero. I had them escrow in 3 days. They're like, you're amazing. I'm like, really, I got lucky. The closing date, ask the question. If I go into your grandmother's house, and she's lived there for 45 years, and all of the memories of raising her family are in that house, and I come in like me, and I'm ready to close it in 14 days, and I write an offer because I didn't talk to Gretchen, and I say, yeah, we're gonna have contingencies 5 days, we're gonna close in 14. Grandma is gonna cry and have a heart attack. Because what is she gonna do with her precious stuff in 14 days? She has to look at every piece of paper and every photo in that album. So it's essential that you try to have a conversation with the listing agent and find out what's important to the seller. I know you've heard this over and over again. But faster isn't always better. Or somebody who has a 1031 exchange, or they have a tax. I've had ones that they say, yeah, but they can't close until after X. What's important about X? They're going to have capital gains if they don't hit 2-year mark and they closed on such a date, such a date. So those questions are really important. conveyances. Oh gosh. I hate negotiating personal property. Everybody always wants the stupid rug or the $100 wine fridge from Costco, and we're working with $1 million houses. The owner of, it's not General Dynamics, but it's one of the General Atomics or one of them. Their daughter was buying a house from my client, and she obsessed on the rusty old lawn furniture in the backyard. Her agent ended up buying her lawn furniture, okay? Because my client didn't, I refused to negotiate. First off, it's not part of the real estate. It's not, it's chattel, but it's not real estate. You guys probably remember that.
We learned that on the test.
Right. That's the only time you'll use it, right? The house in escrow right now, it's funny how negotiations from the past come back to haunt you. The seller wouldn't leave her fridge. Okay? So my seller doesn't want to leave her fridge. And I'm like, oh God, really? No fridge in a $750,000 house? That's the one thing, no fridge in a $750,000 house. If it had push come to shove, would I have written a check for a fridge? Yeah. Okay, right now my seller's taking the curtains down. She knows the buyers want the curtains, but they're not attached. She's pissed at the buyers, so the curtains are going with her, even though she won't use them in the next house. Those are the kinds of things people do. Then you get in, people think that their old crappy stuff is worth a lot, and you're negotiating this. So this, I want you to practice this. Melinda, do you think they'll give us the rugs? Well, you know they might. Let's focus on the house right now. Let's not get this mixed up, because they might have an emotional attachment to those rugs. So, you know, when everything's, all the contingencies are cleared and everything, we can bring that up again, and I'll let you guys negotiate that.
How do you, I have this, I know it's not great, it doesn't come up with great, but somebody is selling their house, wants to list their home, fully furnished. How do you deal with something like that? Because
It actually does come up in a
Oh, it does? I didn't know what, I didn't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a colleague that sells a lot of vacation rentals, and I actually used to own a vacation rental brokerage, and it actually does come up, like in the desert communities, like in Palm Desert. And a savvy listing agent will not write in the MLS description that the furniture is all included, because the appraiser will see that, and the appraiser is supposed to back that out, the value of the furnishings, because they're not loaning on furnishings, they're loaning on a home.
Right.
And then you could initiate an addendum, and I don't know what Mark and Robert would say, outside of things that the lender would not see. Just like our request for repairs, you don't give that to the lender. Same kind of thing. Maybe a separate purchase and sale addendum that's just that they execute like a car. Or you may just get away with having been there that the appraiser doesn't ask any questions because you didn't have it in the listing, but you had it in a conversation with the listing agent. Very common in vacation rental properties that it goes furnished, and that's an add-on because that can be $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 worth of furnishings. It can be a big deal. Plus, the seller doesn't want to have to deal with it right away. Good question. Earnest money and option fee. What I'm your client. What is standard earnest money?
1 to 3%.
1 to 3% average. You will get back to a point where you'll CBA offers for 500. Okay, that's the lowest earnest money I've ever had a client give. $500. Actually, one of my coaching clients had Mike Link, and this was the first red flag of the transaction. I knew something. I knew it wasn't going to close when I saw the contract. 0 earnest money on a VA loan. 0. It's like, they accepted this? What's wrong with the house? They didn't have any other offers. It was on Mount Palomar. There were all sorts of things wrong with the house, okay? And then they didn't have that. It was on fire, right? Earnest money, especially as you get into clientele that have bought and sold a lot of homes, they will tend to put a lot of emphasis on earnest money, and people not from California. So they won't like some of the offers like FHA and VA that tend to put lower earnest money down because they somehow think it's a riskier offer. I want you to educate yourselves that it really isn't. Because in California, it's extremely hard to keep the buyers earnest money. Our contracts favor the buyers, as you saw. It's extremely hard to do, and you actually have to prove damages. So in an escalating market like the one we've had, the mediator or arbitrator is going to say, but you could have put it back in the market for more money. You're not keeping the buyer's money. So all that earnest money is that skin in the game. Now in other states and other markets, that money goes hard from the beginning. The seller does get to keep it. It is a big deal. Yet, however, mentally, I still tell my clients the more you can put in, the better. If you can put in 3%, put 3%. You'll see flippers and cash offers putting even more than that in. Yet they know that if they cancel the buyer, the seller can't keep more than 3%. That's what our liquidated damages. California law doesn't allow you to keep 3%. So yes, standards between 1 and 3. 3 looks better, 3 looks stronger. But when you guys are listing agents, I want you to look at the total offer. Because if the lender has approved the loan and you're going to cross-qualify it, what do you really care how much they're putting down? Like, people get wrapped up on their down payment or on their earnest money. It's like, we're not in this to keep your $25,000 of earnest money. I had to bring my client back to that because they're like, well, we want their money. And I'm like, you really don't want their money. You want your house sold. You want $300,000 in equity. We really don't want to go through this again. This is the devil we know. So keep that perspective. But that's another part of the negotiation tool.
I received an email blast from a home flipper that had a property on the market. The email said that the earnest money deposit was not refundable. Is that legal?
That's a very interesting question. My understanding from one of our team meetings is that no, it actually isn't, but a lot of people are using it in California. That might not have been a flipper, that might be a wholesaler, that he's assigning the contract. So he can assign the contract, that's different from the purchase and sale agreement. Okay, so when you get those emails, typically that's a wholesaler who's got a contract on a property, he's trying to sell the contract.
Can you teach me that?
Yeah, I'm not very good at it. That's not,
I'm interested in that.
I know, I figured you would be interested in it, knowing what you want to do. I don't love working with wholesalers. I feel like they don't add value to the equation, yet it is a way to pick up properties for what you want to do in your business. It is one way to pick up properties. Somebody else is basically doing the scouting for you and getting the finders fees what they end up getting.
Is there someone here that does teach it?
I'll find you somebody.
Okay.
I'll find you somebody that knows more about it. And then we get to, I gotta get more water.
I need to go to the water.
Yeah. We'll take it the same time and break.
Oh, okay. You want me out of it for a
If
second?
you want to.
Perhaps.
I just figured I had to do something.
What's that?
I figured I had to do something.
Yeah, that would be neat. Evidently. You're good.
Not really. You know, these buyers, when they're not there, and then they keep like go over maybe the questions and these things, and
How was coffee?
It was short and it was good.
It was pretty live video.
Yeah, it was nice.
Your ideas and everything.
Oh,
Right.
Well, what's interesting is, I have tasted pre-check. I finally, like, 100 different reasons why I didn't global, but I got it back when I entered back into the state.
Okay, yeah, you were
I
saying.
was saying that, and I got my clear.
Okay.
So, we're good.
Does it make you get the wristband for clear? When I went to Hawaii, we ended up doing it there in Maui. But we could have got it here and got a wristband and then went through the clear pass on that side.
Interesting.
But then they made us like wait there and double check.
Yeah, I'm not sure I fully understand when to clear, when we have to take the check and go country.
Me
But,
either.
you know, everything's a negotiation. If my boyfriend wanted me to get clear, I got clear.
My girlfriend wanted me to.
But I'm like, okay, sure, whatever you want.
They almost left me at the border last time because I didn't have my gold entry. And the three of them had it on the car. They're like, you can get out of here. I was like, no, this is cheap.
Well, the one thing we still need is the Sentry to come back fast when we walk across the
With the gold entry, that is just.
There we go,
Yep.
that, it's interesting because the Customs and Border Patrol back didn't know.
Yeah, no, it is.
Okay, that's what I was wondering if I had to do one more thing.
No, you don't. And I was so.
Good, now I can go for tacos.
I know.
I would say tacos. I like to go across the border with tacos and tequila for lunch.
Like I said, I'm just going down to Rosarito. I'm going down to Rosarito, I think, next weekend. Like 1 day or 2 days.
Right.
But it's like, yeah, I'm gone for a day.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not scared to go?
You know, I've been here my whole life. I've been going down there
I'm
since I
so
was
scared
12.
now.
Yeah.
I'm Mexican and my family's gonna kill me.
And you still won't go.
Yeah.
And
They tell me too many stories.
that's, I do hear stories.
Yeah.
But it's more situational awareness than anything,
Yeah.
where I don't do a lot of like border close-up stuff, so I used to.
Yeah.
In the
I don't see it.
90s, it was much safer, or actually in the late 80s, early 90s, it was very safe. Most events and not all that, we just go down to the lobster or whatever. And then it got really yucky for a while, and now it's much
Well, it's
better.
actually on the page.
Well, yeah, but like more like if you go more south, like the tourist areas, those are safe because you protect the tourists.
But it's the getting from here, it's the getting from here to there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so, I want to make sure we keep going. I haven't mentioned the three-piece approach, but we've talked a lot about it. So when we get into the repairs, this is a big area. I let my clients know, the buyers and the sellers, they say, okay, there's many deals fall out of escrow. About 20 to 30% any given year fall out of escrow. Now, Gretchen, we talked about that. I also know mine I don't. Until 2020, I closed 99% of my deals. That's why I teach this class, okay? I want to bulletproof your transaction. So I'll talk to my clients about these are the 3 areas of why we fall out of escrow. The first one will be repairs after the inspections. And we'll take different strategies to work with it. Sometimes I am having my clients do a pre-listing inspection if I think there might be something wrong we have to deal with, okay? And we might fix that beforehand. So that, because the buyer is always gonna think it's worse than it is. So that's why we stage. So we're going to do things to help the deal go. If I know that my target market is VA, I'm gonna pull a termite report before we list it so that at least I know what I'm dealing with. Especially with the increase in lumber costs, it used to be like I could be pretty confident it'd be no more than a few $1,000s. Now it can quickly become a $20,000 repair. I need to know that before we start negotiating. Because think how much more powerful that is for your seller if they know that that VA deal is going to cost them an extra $5,000 because they've got to get termite repair stuff. Okay, I mean, as much as I wanted to take VA, we need to know what we're dealing with. So repairs. I explained to my buyers in my consult, this is really important, you guys write this down, that at our repairs, we are looking for 4 things, 4 S's I call them: safety, systems, structure, and surprises. We are not going into the inspection to renegotiate the worn carpet that you saw during the walkthrough, the 15-year-old roof that we saw. We're not getting into the roof. You're buying a used home. If the roof leaks, then we're going to be negotiating having a watertight roof. Yeah, I want you to make an offer based on the condition of the home as we saw it. And I will walk in, I'm taking it apart. It's no fun to have me over as your friend, my poor hairstylist. I go in to use your restroom. Her husband built her this beautiful like style shed outside during the pandemic. I go in to use the restroom and I look and I point and say, you guys need to get that fixed. You could drive around termites. And she starts laughing. I said, I can get you the inspection for free. You know, that kind of thing. I can do it so you don't want me at your house, because that's what happens. I walk in and I'm looking. I'm opening the door and I'm looking like this. And I'm looking around because they're all excited because the house is staged, especially the flipped houses, right? And I'm looking and I'm like, yeah, you know, these are the original aluminum windows. You've got, or you have dual panes here. We notice the wall heater, it's this big. We don't have central heat in the house. And I'm not trying to convince them not to do it. I want them to know what they have. Oh, look, you've got mini splits. Those are great, that keeps the house cool. Or if there's no AC, and I know that's a really important thing to my client, we can put mini splits in here for about $3,500 to $4,000 a piece. Or if it's, we have to buy a new, you know, let's say the AC compressor looks old and bad when I go outside, I'm going to tell them that's about $5,500, $6,000 for that if all the duct work is still working and good. Okay, but I'm going to be looking around. I'm going to look around. I'm going to look out. I'm going to be looking for termite and wood rot. Here in San Diego, we have it on so many homes. There's so much deferred maintenance that you see in these homes. And then when I see a little bit of deferred maintenance, I start to look a little harder, because a little deferred maintenance often means a lot of deferred maintenance. Now, I'm not opening. I'm not an agent that turns on a faucet, flushes the toilets, looks under the cabinets, does all of that. That's what we pay an inspector for. But I want to set expectations. So I set those expectations.
The 4 S's are safety, structure, systems, and what?
Surprises.
What are you doing these 4 things?
These are during your inspection phase. Okay, so your client, before the inspector even comes out, you're going to educate them that generally inspections, and they might not listen to you, okay, but generally inspections are, we're looking for, he's going to point out everything that's wrong with the house. And you're going to think it's horrible.
Right.
Yeah, your house will never look worse than when we have the inspections done. Yet what we're looking for is safety. Is there something dangerous? Is the deck falling down? You know, is there friable asbestos? is there active mold? Now, we don't know what kind of mold it is, but we're going to determine that. Safety systems. Everything looks great, and the AC doesn't work, the dishwasher doesn't work, the garbage disposal doesn't work. Even in this market, those are valid things. Those are also surprises, unless they were disclosed. So at the beginning of the pandemic, I had a house in Claremont that we were offering on, and it was incredibly competitive in Claremont. And it was disclosed to us that when they bought it, the sewer pipe needs relining and replacing, and they had a quote for about $6 grand. Okay, so they disclosed that to us up front, and I instructed my client to make their offer with that in mind. And he wanted, actually, we were a backup offer, and he wanted to be sure that we were going to take it with that in mind. When I say sometimes clients surprise you, though, they still ask me to negotiate that later. Okay, and that's when you're like. That's when your relationship with the agent is really important, where you say, I know we agreed that we were taking it the way it was, and my client has asked me for a $6,000 credit for that. I think they got a bid and it was higher, it was more like $8,500 or something. That's your job, you represent your client, even though you may or may not agree. Yet I had instructed them, and I had the conversation, so hey guys, I did have this conversation, I just negotiated with my own client. You knew about this. You made this offer with this. Yeah, we knew that, but it's more than we want, and we're not happy with this, and we don't understand why they didn't get it fixed when they bought it. Okay, whatever, not my thing. Safety system structure, foundations. That's a big thing in San Diego. It's the structure. You are not going to be a foundation expert, but you're going to learn to see telltale signs. When you see cracks bigger than the size of a quarter, it just sends off a light bulb that you might end up needing a foundation inspection in here. And know that when you're getting into these tight contingencies. Can you get a foundation guy out there in that contingency phase? Because what's going to happen is first you're going, or do you have to do it simultaneously? If I smell mold when I walk in, and mold is important to my client, I might order the general inspection and the mold testing on day one. Generally, you wait for the inspector to tell you, hey, you've got something going on here, order it. But with these tight contingencies, sometimes we have to line it up, and you need to educate your client as to the cost of these things. Hey, the inspection's only $450, yet all these other things you want to do are going to be more. And now I have this conversation more as part of my routine of, is there anything, I ask the client, the buyer, is there anything else that's really important to you in the inspections that I should know about in advance? I've had a couple clients that have previously been sick because of mold infestations, or they have a child that's immune compromised. Those things you need to know about in advance when you're writing the offer, okay? Because you don't want to open the escrow, waste their time, waste their inspection money, waste their appraisal money, and then find out there's mold in the house and you could have known that was an issue for them up front, okay? So safety system, structure, and surprises. I mean, I had an investor client that I got into escrow this year down in Southeast San Diego, and the listing agent was a commercial agent, and he had said to me, yeah, they had pulled permits once, but they ended up not going with it. They were, whatever. What he didn't tell me was that there were now active permit violations from when they tried to pull permits. That, to an investor, is a big, big deal. It's a lot of money, and it's time. Time is money when you're an investor. That meant he could no longer do a 60-day flip, because he had to clear all the permit issues. Okay? We tried to negotiate it down $100 grand, and we didn't, and it's still falling in and out of escrow because it's a commercial agent listing a residential property. He doesn't understand that residential buyers have a different set of standards. So, yeah, interesting. Wow. So that's one of the first thing, that's where deals fall out, is at the inspection phase. But you can help to work through the transaction. As we shift in markets, your sellers of these homes built in the 50s, it may be advisable for them to get a pre-listing inspection. And yet you do have to advise them. Once you have that inspection, that is part of your disclosures. So there's a risk. So you need to talk to them about what their motive, it always comes back to motivation, right? Are they trying to squeak every last dime out of the house? Or are they trying to get out of the house just quick and they don't care? They're going to a
sellers. Ask the sellers to do a
pre-listing inspection, yeah. So I did it on, go ahead.
Let's talk first, or
No, go ahead.
Yeah, oh, it's just about, okay, so like say, is this something like with the inspectors and stuff, like say you're on the buyer side, you get the call at 1 o'clock, your office approved, great, and like at 1:30, am I sending out all the
Yes.
appointments for the inspectors, like is it like that, like right away, get it done?
Yes, get it done.
Yeah, so like right after you get the
Some of
yes?
us will, so if I think it's gonna go that way and I've got tight contingencies, I'm actually texting my top 2 inspectors immediately. And I tell them what they wanna know. Here's the address, how many square feet, single family condo, when's your first available and how much is it gonna be? And I get that in there, I'm like, okay, pencil us in. Okay? Some agents will actually use it as a negotiation tactic and say, and I've already got these inspections and all these things lined up for you when they put the offer. So it shows they're serious and ready to go. In these tight time frames, those get important. As we start to stretch to normalcy, eventually you will. Why hang around? Why not do it quickly? And that's also where your relationships matter. So you talk about negotiations. I had something closed this week, and we needed to do termite, and the woodwork for the termite is backed up a month and a half. And it's a VA purchase and I can't close, I can't give a credit. I have to have clearance to close it. So that's where the negotiations and relationships come in. I'm like, guys, can you help me out somehow? So I gotta have this. And that's when I'm able to get them to do it for my client. And that's because of loyalty. And nobody's ever taken me to lunch. They've given me peanut butter candies at Christmas. That's the only thing. But it's loyalty. And I let the buyer's agent know, hey, Kennedy did us a solid on this. Not only were they backed up, this was supposed to be 2 days of repairs. They brought out double the crew to get it done for us the day before closing. Please give Kennedy some love in your future business and make sure they know that kind of stuff. It's all like you're negotiating constantly in this.
So you call your caterers your termite?
Yeah. I don't know. It's a favor. I asked, and you know what? When I call the gal, whether it's Betty or Justine or whoever it is, hey, how are you? How's your day? What's going on? I don't know about their families, but I treat them well. And if I were one of the agents, I know there's agents that come. Hi, it's Melinda with Keller Williams. I need a report, whatever. You can't do it that fast. Boom. Next, of course, there's agents that do that.
And you're still people though, that's
right. These are people, right? So I try to treat them, and that all comes around. I've had them. I had one client from out of town, a luxury buyer, buying something in La Jolla. We discovered that there was a report that there was asbestos in the seams, the drywall, like in the putty or something. I've never heard of this before. And my client wanted to do a full remodel, which now turns this house into a gut. But I needed somebody to come and give quotes, window quotes, asbestos remediation, this, that, and I needed it. I only had, I think it was a 14-day escrow and probably 5 days. And I had to call, hey, it's me, this kind of thing. That's all part of the negotiations. But back to inspections and then surprises. So there can be all sorts of different surprises. And so you are counseling and educating them of why. I get silly requests for repairs. Sometimes my own clients do silly requests for repairs. And I can't make deals go silly. I look at this one as silly, but it probably wasn't. I had a client back out of the deal because when we went back to the house at dusk, we're standing there and there's gophers everywhere.
Oh my God.
So his concern should have been the gophers digging around the foundation. That should have been his concern. His concern was he didn't want to kill them. There's these kinds of things, and that comes. So that's the first negotiation, and then the next one that they fall out is the appraisal. And you guys have dealt. I'm sure you've heard a ton about appraisal gaps. When I was learning in 2013, 2014, we didn't talk about appraisal gaps. We talked about appraisals and everything, but people weren't bringing that money to the table. What happens in a normal market if your appraisal comes in low is you renegotiate with the sellers at that point. And you may walk away, you may come in 50-50, you may come in full, or the seller might come down to the price. That is another normal negotiation. However, you can bulletproof your transaction by getting appraisal waivers, getting appraisal gaps, and then checking the money. Remember, Kevin was like, they didn't have the money in this deal I'm talking about. I can't tell you how many offers I see, they don't have the money. And their agents are checking the money. And if the money is in Tesla stock, what happened to this last week, right? Or in Target stock, never mind that. It's not liquid even. Or it's in their IRAs and they don't realize they can only take out 40%. So we have to follow the money, and I don't do it. I am not the financier. I have a trusted lender or two or three who run the numbers for me. And they say, this isn't gonna work, or how low do you think the appraisal might come? They run the numbers for me. And that, hang on, and that has to be directed by the seller. So you'll see those lines that buyer to cross qualify with so-and-so. You don't get to unilaterally decide that. You have to discuss that with your seller, that they want to do that and that they're okay with that lender doing it, by the way.
This day and age, what about for verifying funds?
Crypto is interesting, and it can be complex, and it can be done. But if I were the listing agent and your appraisal gap money is in crypto, I'm probably going to say I want it liquidated beforehand or within 24 hours, and you can request that.
If the buyer doesn't have the money, do you just go to the next buyer? Like
If you have other buyers, yes.
And then what happens if you don't? Well, like what happens in that situation if they don't have the money to sit? They do like do they get any type of?
I've had it. No, there's no trouble. So I had one down in Otay in early 2021, and we took the offer and we negotiated the gap, and it came in low, and it was FHA. And my client information was such, even though we had other offers, we would need to go back on the market. It was such that he decided to take this was one of the retirement fund things. We verified everything. And then they came back and said, oh, you can only take out 40% of that money. So that meant she was $15,000 short for the agreed upon deal. I counseled my client, well, this is what it will look like if we go back on the market, and this is what it looks like if you negotiate, and he made the choice. No, we're gonna just stay with this one, and we'll take the hit for the 15 grand.
I have a question. Is there an option in the contract that you can say we can cover $10,000 of appraisal gap? Like,
There's no place to check a box. It's verbiage that you write in. And I believe that the brokerage has guidelines for what that verbiage should look like. We actually have it in our Google Drive files, what that should look like, to make sure that you're not practicing law. Anytime we change the contract and verbiage, we're at risk of practicing law and hurting your insurance. So you'll want to say, usually you also want a cap on that. Very rarely do you want an appraisal gap that has no cap. Now that depends on your client's financial situation. And sometimes they waive it entirely too. That also depends on your client's financial situation.
But if I know that my client can cover $20,000 and I can put it.
You can put it in the contract, yes. Buyer, should the appraisal come in below the agreed upon purchase price, the buyer will cover that deficit up to $20,000, not to exceed the agreed upon purchase price, and seller agrees to accept that value. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff, and some of them are stronger, some of them are weaker.
I have it in front of you. That's pretty close.
Go ahead.
You want to read it?
Yeah.
Should the property appraisal be lower than the purchase price, the buyer will pay up to, we had $65,000, to address the shortfall, not to exceed the purchase price. The parties agree that the appraisal amount and the buyer contribution will be the revised purchase price.
So his example is, let's just use $100,000, even though we can't get a house. So let's say that the contract is for 200, the house appraises at 100, and his client's bringing 65. The way that gap coverage is written, the new purchase price will be 165, not 200. If you don't have that last line about they agree to that to the new purchase price, then it can still be renegotiated at that point. And in the peak of this seller's market, most sellers were crossing out that last part. They weren't willing to accept that. They were wanting to go on to the next buyer and take their chances on the market.
The buyer who's going to cover the whole gap.
some buyers cover the whole gap, but my buyers, we always put a max on it, unless they have unlimited funds. You have that conversation with them.
And how would that go, like, would that offer be accepted often when you kind of put a cap in your?
Yes. Yes, unless there's a cash offer that's waiving it entirely. And then sometimes it's not always apples and oranges, sometimes there's a 20,000 gap and there's a 50,000 gap and there's all these different terms, and that's where your skill comes in, is helping them to discover what's the best offer for them.
So when you accepted that offer and you got it verified, it still didn't go as.
No, because we didn't talk to, we had been told, people don't always get it right, told them they could access that money. When they went to actually access it, they would only let them take 40%, or at least that's what we were told.
Yeah. But usually you try to pick the best offer so you don't have to get into that situation.
But the best offer isn't always just the highest offer.
I see.
Right, because what if the best offer has no appraisal gap coverage? You also need to know what the house is likely to appraise for.
That's what I was just about to ask. Do we advise our buyers, say, okay, this is how much it should be go, be priced?
This is what I think. These are the comps. Be careful.
Right.
These are the comps. The comps show a value of this.
Right.
Yet we don't know. Appraisal is not exact science.
No, I didn't. Yeah.
Right. Because sometimes you get surprised and it comes in way lower than what you thought it would based on comps, or it comes in higher.
But in order to do something like this, we should look at the comps and the size or
Yes.
Yes. What we think, or what the comps show.
Yes. And I saw an interesting Facebook post from Laugh Code Agents that said, "Oh, do you still show comps with every one of to your buyers with every one of your purchases?" And there were people that in there saying, "No, why? Comps have nothing to do with anything anymore." And I'm like, I can't wait till you get sued because your buyer paid $150,000 more and you didn't give them comps.
Actually, all my buyers ask me.
Of course,
They
and
ask me for comps.
mine don't always.
I mean, I
have one that she just decides what she's gonna write and she's ready to write it, and I have to go say, let me go back and get you the comps. And in this market where we've been showing one house at a time, sometimes I'll show up and I'll already have the comps, but in a normal one, I'm not doing it until after we show the property and they know what they want.
Where do you mainly work at, Melinda?
I'm referral based, so I work with the county.
Oh.
Yeah. But my favorites are coastal, along the coast, west of the 5, and then up the corridor.
Oh.
I started in North County. All right. Are we doing? We're doing lost being informed. Okay, so they talk about 3 P's: prepare, present, and position. Okay. It's interesting because they talk about these classic negotiation tactics and nonverbal cues and all of that. I think you guys have been taught to mirror and match. I think we're good on the cues. We talk about nibbling, hot potato, good guy, bad guy strategies. Okay. I give you the $2,400 credit. You release contingencies. That's exactly what I was trying to do here. Nibbling. Okay. And she didn't nibble. She pushed back. A hot potato. The same transaction. They want to do their verification property condition on Saturday. My client doesn't want to do it on Saturday. So she says that's not good for me. So she tried to throw it back at me, right? That's not good for me. And I'm like, well, these are the 2 times that are available, which one will work for you? I threw it right back at her. Hot potato, negotiating back and forth. And good guy, bad guy. I see this a lot. I think it's a weak way to negotiate. My broker requires this of us. My broker said it has to be that way. Well, if it really is your broker policy, whatever, that's fine. But don't hide behind the broker. You can do better than that. So come forward with your client. And then it says call them on their game if they do that. You can even say, come on, you're not going to play good guy, bad guy with me, are you? The other thing with the hot potatoes, they say throw it back, test the validity of that. Like, I threw it back. I'm like, well, my client can't do it on Saturday, which leads to. So testing it to see if it was just the time frame. Is that really a valid argument, or they just mean it's well perhaps they want to do it on Saturday because she's got, brunch with friends. Exactly. And I do that, sometimes you have to do that with like showings too, and you'll say, well, can't you pay somebody to show it while you're gone? I know they want to show it at an inconvenient time or before the client leaves or something like that. You throw that. And then there's the positioning is acknowledging and affirming the common ground. So find out where you are in agreement and re-acknowledge that. Okay, so we're in agreement that we're not going to ask for a new roof. Like you might show them the report. Okay, we're in agreement, we're not gonna ask for a new roof. However, we do need to take care of the air conditioning that doesn't work. Don't just send the inspection report and like with a list of the things. Again, it's the same thing. You're gonna call. You're gonna say, you know, I know there's a lot of items on here and these are their main concerns, and we're only asking for a credit for $3,000 because of this. Like you did this recently, that you didn't ask for absolutely everything. You whittled it down to things that were really important to your client. And it's a negotiation tactic to let them know that, you know, there's other things without hurting feelings, because people do get hurt. There's other things wrong with the house. We're only going to focus on these. So it shows how calm and reasonable you are. Does that make sense?
You might not get a calm response. You might not get a calm response.
You might not get a calm response. But whose emotions do we keep between the lines? Our own. Yes. And sometimes we don't, and we vent off to somebody else. I had one of my daughters living with me during the pandemic. She's like, Mom, I do not want to hear about PH, I'll call him. I don't want to hear his name in this house again. Because he was just so driving me insane. All she heard me, I never complained to him. Hello, PH, how are you? Good to hear from you. I never know it, but I get off that phone and that. PH. I'm not going to say his name. All right, know your role, and we're going to role play. I want you to have you role play negotiating the counter offer. So choose a partner up. The scenario is one of you's a buyer agent, one of you's a listing agent. The buyer's agent has found the house they love, it's in a neighborhood they want, it's at the top of their range, and does need some work and updating in the kitchen and the master bathroom. The client makes an offer on the property, and the seller's agent says, I must warn you, we've gotten several offers, and your offer is pretty low. Okay. The listing agent, your sellers need to move within 45 days to a job transfer. You feel like you can price the house competitively. You're aware it needs updating, but the sellers don't see the need because the house is just fine for them. There have been multiple offers. The other offers are still standing, but the timing might not work for the seller. Okay, there's multiple offers on the table, but timing is important. And the latest offer is lower than the asking price. You've let the buyer's agents know, I must warn you, we've got several offers and your offer's pretty low. So let's see.
Which page are you?
This is on my page 22. Okay. So you're gonna negotiate a counter offer. So one of the buyer's agent potentially get a counter offer.
It's
What page? I'm sorry, what page?
22. Do you need mine?
Looks like I have to. I have not sure.
Offer is pretty.
Sure.
Thank you.
Offer is the shiesty. Well, they've been.
This is the beginning, I'm so tired. This is kind of fun scenarios, like this is.
They're all. They were trying to Which one do you want to be?
I don't know, I don't wanna be any, but let me see.
So,
I wanna be a buyer.
no, I'll read this one
I
first.
think you have to read it.
Yeah, you may not offer this a little low, but I think you fall better with verifying time. So I think that's what the reason is.
Based on the internal mark on the other internal process on the market, they are looking at it with updated factors, so
Yes, I understand that, but it's the prices of the market, we're still at, let's see if we can ask for 90% over, so, I think it's one, we are happy that he could do it with the provided, yeah, stuff, but we need to go
based on what exists in
I understand now what you But for me, I had more money and I had one of the questions. I say my buyer that
Oh, yeah.
I had more money.
It's always good.
Or also refusing everything else, but in your case, I do understand.
With our case, your offer is below, low. So if you say low, how are you gonna work it out where it's not?
Or maybe this conversation.
Let's say, I think that it's going to be like,
Okay, so you want to go less than 10,000 for 7 days. That's not really good. Okay, for 10,000, I'll ask my sellers about that. But what if they come back and say, how about we split the difference? We'll cover 5,000. So you split for 5,000, you cover half of it. We like it.
Goes to girl.
So maybe if we
Alright, do I have a volunteer couple like you guys? We're gonna volunteer to role play it. Alright, we've got volunteers, they're gonna role play it out for us. There's no right or wrong, there's only learning, okay? Okay.
See, I'm like wanting.
Alright, guys. I can be still negotiating. These guys are gonna role play for us. Who's the listening agent?
I'm the listening agent.
The listening agent, or the buyer's agent. Okay, so you're going to tell her it's a little low and you're gonna go from there.
Your offer, we're still looking at it. We definitely like that you can make it happen within the 45 days of the movement, but at the same time, I think it's a little shicey. Probably it's a little shicey.
I would be careful using a word like that. Okay? Because where I'm from, that's like a Jewish insult kind of thing.
Okay.
So I'd be careful using a word like that.
A little cheap.
There you go.
Because, after me and my clients and I have looked at comparable properties, we did notice that your property did have renovations that, or you lacked renovations that other properties did have. In this neighborhood, especially the bathrooms and the kitchen.
Yeah, I understand that. I know that most of the properties are actually going for over 50% of the asking. We're just at our asking. We would like you to come up. But yes, that is understandable. Is there any room you think your client could move, or I can get back to my client about it?
Well, in the open house, we did discuss how your plan and that you need to get out of here, move out of state, and time is, in the essence here. So to make this an easier sale, I think we should just agree that due to the lack of renovations compared to the other properties, we should just try to close and get this escrow going.
If I came up and did some of the renovations that you're asking for, some of the smaller ones that are easy, and come up in that price, do you think, sorry, what do you think you could come back at with a better offer? Say I did the windows, or the kitchen.
What else in the kitchen would you be willing to renovate?
Definitely the windows in the kitchen, maybe even the sink.
Okay, so my client was willing to go maybe just $10,000 more for those lack of renovations.
Okay, let me send it back to my client, and see what we can do. Maybe we can make this work.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, good. So, they came out, they having their conversation. They're reaffirming what's important, reaffirming the offer might work better because of the timeline, that the price is lower than what they would like, and then they start brainstorming a little bit for what might get them to bring the price up. Be really careful with words that have emotion attached to them. So the first word you use could have emotion. I would use the word cheap either, honestly, because again, that's like a judgment. So it would be, it's lower than we would like, it's lower than the others, it's less than we expected. Be careful with any emotional charging, okay? Because if you said that, I might have to get up like, oh man. And then, especially if you put it in writing in an email, then she might forward the email, and now you just call the buyers cheap. Then that's really be careful around that. I mean, we all make these kind of things. We all do that, and so it comes out, and you're like, oh, I can't believe I just said that. And then the other thing you might have thought of would be, okay, the 45 days is really important to them. Well, what if rather than coming up on price, we took it in this condition, but we closed faster so they knew they'd be going and they could stay in the house 2 weeks. Look for things that might not cost, that like your client, it doesn't cost them a lot of money because they're not going to make that mortgage payment for a month. Would that work for them? Okay, so looking for alternative solutions. Thank you. Thank you for being the guinea pigs. In closing, any questions?
What was number 3? So 3 reasons.
Oh, the third.
Appraisal.
The loan.
Oh, yeah.
The loan. They go out, they buy a car 2 days before closing. They lose their job. During COVID, they get COVID. We had all sorts of odd things happening. The loan. So it's never done until it's done. That can be for a reason. And we bulletproofed out through the cross-qualification process. Okay? That's one of the things. Yes, thank you. Anything else? Any ahas that you would be willing to share? 3 ahas.
Don't call me cheap.
Don't call me cheap.
I was just gonna ask you, sorry, you had said prepare, present, and what was the third word?
Prepare, present,
Position.
and position.
Okay.
So the positioning, and I did circle that, so I'm glad you asked it. Positioning is a process, and sometimes it requires you to come back and negotiate more than once. Okay? But that's figuring out what's important to the other party. So you might need to come back. We might verbally discuss it, but it's not a negotiation. You need to write the counter offer, okay? And so you have to manage that, make sure you have it in writing. The other thing I didn't mention is know when to walk away. Sometimes it's just not a good deal, okay? Some of these offers in the last 2 years, it's like, no, I'm not giving you my firstborn. That's not gonna happen. Okay, so know what your walkaway is, or have your client know what their walkaway is. Sometimes they won't tell you, and that's okay too. Ahas, any others?
Make sure the counter is green.
Green calendar.
Stick to the what's gonna make money even though you're having fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Do what's gonna make you money first.
Yeah.
The fact that I need to go home now, and it's 4:30, and I'm old, and I'm tired, and I'm hungry, is not a good thing. And that I need to go to that hour of the generation. And I have an accountability partner that's going to check in with me in about 20 minutes. No, actually, 5 o'clock. She's going to check in with me and see who I did. She's not going to be happy if I haven't done it.
You said everything is a negotiation. It's like not even just a negotiation, but your first interactions, everything. Pretty much everything's a negotiation.
It's all part of it. Not everyone's going to be as tuned in, but yeah, it's all part of it.
This whole chamber me was on.
Yeah,
That was not
On the Saturday.
And I don't expect you to remember all this, but I think what it really illustrates is when the communication breaks down. Like even now, okay, now, guess who followed up about getting the next extension?
Oh.
Guess who followed up while we were in here? Not the agent.
So what's doing the agent?
17-year-old experience.
The TC followed up. It's like
Know your contract.
well, this one, she should just call me. Yeah. Right.
You scared her.
I scared her.
Melinda came over and sent me.
I know, last time she called me, I should have wrapped out. And I don't like to do that, I really don't. Because we'll probably cross paths again, she'll probably end up being a great agent, she was very pleasant. And somebody else said, what the heck happened that time? I don't understand what happened.
Maybe her clients are dodging her. She has to call them.
And that was what she said again, is that the client's frustrated with the process.
She kind of did, and they're not answering my
She's
call.
making it more frustrating.
Wow.
I appreciate you guys, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great.
Go get some clients this weekend.
Any food?
Thank you.
Your packet.
I know.
My coach required us.
Martin Bob will be with us. Bob's on vacation.
And I'm used to community as well.
My
I'll
friend
tell you,
is
those
fair.
TCs, you
All
pay
the like
your brokerage.
small businesses and careers and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Typically, so you're about $5.50 of your transaction comes out to go to your TC. And I'm gonna tell you, that's some of the best money
Yeah, that's
you'll
what-
spend
that's what I
when you
was-
close a deal.
So Melinda, do you have a TC that we should be using?
Well, we need to use the TCs that are approved at the office, and I am so fortunate because my longest running TC that I should have with is here approved now. So I was really with her.
Okay, so yeah, because he said occasionally they was a TC.
There's several others, so you're gonna
Yeah,
find
I
out
just
which one
went
works
ahead
best
and
for
emailed
your style.
Yeah.
Just
Okay, so he's a
What was that again?
you know, helps change all
Yeah.
the education, she had,
Oh,
very much.
Make a note of it so she can.
Not everybody is that.